Okay, so we got chapter 1158 of One Piece titled Rocks versus Harald and Par. The cover page story. It is finally taking off after 40 volumes of Yamato walking around Wano, Yamato, fighting the former Beast Pirate members. We finally got something substantial. Kozuki Moria, bro.
This is what we've been waiting for. There were so many Yamato cover story haters, and we were on the bastions holding up the flag, waving, and guys, wait for the 40th volume. It's coming. We're waiting for you guys at the graveyard of the Pirate of Justice. We saw it coming, right, Sai?
Depends what you mean by saw it coming. We knew something was gonna be here eventually. We just didn't know when. Yamato's journey, man, we knew the payoff was going to be good. It was just so damn boring until this point. It's crazy.
Yeah. It is crazy because, like, let's look back. Let's look back and summarize the things that happened. I mean, shit, man. I think we could have covered most of it in, like, 10, right? I feel like there's so much fluff and, like, I'm not, it's cover story. We should be grateful that we're getting cover story, canon, relevant content. But I'm also like, the cover stories now are some valuable real estate. And it's so, like, we're going towards the end of the story. And this is an example of it. This cover story is an example of how powerful cover stories can be. And honestly, like, at this point, I'm not gonna say should be, but, like, we could be a little bit more efficient with some of the info. And this is some insane, like, it's literally the picture doesn't matter. I was literally on stream and I was just like, guys, I don't even remember what the picture was. Like, I forgot who's on it. All I know is I think Yamato horns were a little extra pointed today. But other than that, there's just the words. That's all we needed. And that was enough to, like, I don't know, destroy so many
everything.
Yeah, like, expectations were shattered, brains, theories, like, jaws dropped, broken, it was wild. And, like, to the point that for the first time ever, you and I on stream did a pre-chapter reaction because we just spent an hour yapping about the cover story before my reaction because you had told me cover story. And then because of timing and all that stuff, and then working out where it was just like, all right, wait, maybe it's better if you just come at the start. And it was so nice that we did that because this was just like...
This is the talk of the town.
Yeah. Like, I saw Jay's short reaction about this, and I agreed with, like, I understood where his reaction was coming from. Like, he literally was like, I am scared to say that this is a little dumb. And, like, I was thinking that at the start too, like, to a certain extent, not because I didn't like it or whatever, but he was like, is this retcon and whatever? But, like, when you're reading it, and especially because we're not Japanese readers, you don't see the wordplay that kind of nullifies that, which is that the Gecko and Kozuki thing are just the kanji inverted, which that's just like, okay, all right, I can't.
It's Oda not a retcon.
Yeah, Oda wanted to play this card. He just didn't know when or how, and he was just saving it. We knew he wanted to play it. We just never knew when. But the thing is, we didn't know he wanted to play it because we didn't know this was a card. And I almost, when I was thinking about it, I'm like, this almost seems like one of those theories that blew up in Japan and we just never got it. But I also feel like I've never heard of anyone saying, like, yo, Par, in Japan, they have this theory about Moria being Kozuki thing. I don't think I've ever heard that, which is really crazy because I have like 4 videos focused on Moria, like, deep diving. And then also not just Moria, but the Kozuki clan and the history. And a lot of times people bring up, like, oh, Par in Japan, blah, 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 blah. I don't think I've ever heard anyone bring up Kozuki Moria. I'm not saying it doesn't exist in Japan. I'm just saying that this is one of those theories that, like, the Western world wouldn't really, like, have focused on their own, maybe, but the Japanese maybe because they're just reading Kozuki and it's a flip and it's Gecko, you know. So I don't really know, but definitely a dope thing to see. Definitely a
Yeah.
dope thing to see.
And something that's funny too, right? When you look at the kanji for Gecko, when you flip it, it would be spelled Gekko instead of
Yeah.
Gecko, like Gecko. But in One Piece film Stampede, where we see Moria's bounty poster, they spell it with 2 Ks, which would be the inverted of Kozuki, and that's what we're looking for. Which but yeah, it's just so great. Like, I've seen so many people come out of the woodwork saying, it's a retcon, like this came out of nowhere. And it's like, nope, it did not. You literally cannot argue that this is like a, just something Oda came up with on a whim. Like, it was ingrained into his character. It's his actual name. It's too right there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I like this kind of setup is cool. I like it because not in this instant, but like in other instances where something similar might happen, people make lots of theories. And that's why in One Piece, making theories is pretty cool because there are details like this with other characters and other things that it's likely that Oda might have set the seeds for this reveal, right? And later on, he decides like, I'm not going to go that way, or I don't have enough time in the story, or if I do, I'll just mention the SBS. And there's like small theories, reveals, whatever that like, make sense. But Oda's like priority of certain plot lines or characters shifts. And we know this as like with Kid and Law, for example. Oda thought that Kid would be the more important one, but then counting in the popularity of Law and the importance he could give him, Oda pivoted and gave Law a lot more importance. And so how that plays out in the future, we don't really know. But in this instance, Oda had a lot of Wano, Thriller Bark, Moria connections already, to the point that, when Luffy was fighting Kaido and he pulled out Gear 5, one of the first things that, one of the first videos that I made, and I know a lot of people pull the references, was that when Luffy was slamming Kaido, it ended up being panel for panel how Nightmare Luffy was fighting orbs. And so even there, and then there was the callback to Thriller Bark that the anime embellished on with when we first saw the numbers that Luffy one-shot, and he had the whole flashback of like, damn, at Thriller Bark, this took mad long, but now here we are. Like, I could just one-shot one of these guys. And so there were already, besides that, so many different things tying Moria to Wano that it's like, you even look at the recent stuff, like I mentioned, Oda released that concept of cross guild where Perona's there. Oda, put in Moria, I think it was in between acts in Wano in chapter like 926, 927, or no, 925. So he even put Moria's state into Wano, right? And so like there's so many levels to like how important Oda was making Moria. He set him aside apart from the rest of the warlords because he's like relevant, but he's also kidnapped by Blackbeard, kept alive. His powers are sought after by the Gorosei. Like there's so many different things. And so now it's like, okay, Moria is insanely important. And I know there was a lot of like the theoretical possibilities that you brought up, and like, very obvious now that it's not just he's relevant, not just Pirate of Justice, but Kozuki and how important the Kozuki are. And like, it's just insane. Like the, connections with Odin, Sukiyaki, can he read the poneglyphs? Can he command Zunisha? Is he Momo's uncle? Is he the new scabbard now? Like, what's gonna happen? He's the little long lost scabbard, the 10th shadow scabbard, right? Because that's also what they called them. They called the scabbards like the 9 shadows beneath the moon or some shit like that, right? So it's like Moria's the ruler of those.
Yeah, I don't even know where to start, because there's so many different plot points we could talk about when it comes to Kozuki Moria. So I guess let's just start with this. Let's keep it simple. How is he a Kozuki member? Because there has been a lot of debate around this. Was he a kid that just, went from the West Blue all the way to Wano and then he got adopted by Sukiyaki? Or is he a pure blood Kozuki and he's a part of one of those families that left 55 years ago, because the time frame does open himself up to that right there, right? He, just like how Zoro is a Shimotsuki, born and raised in the East Blue, Moria could be a full-blood Kozuki, and they were in the West Blue. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, on stream I had a wild idea, and I started to really like that idea. But as far as keeping Moria current timeline, that does fit, right? I agree.
Yeah.
Oda put in a really good spot with. He gave us what I think it was like 25 people escaped, and he gave us the 15 of them basically, and like the Shimotsuki, etc. And then the guy that was selling swords at Log Town, that guy was on the ship too, I think, right? And then we were also talking about the carpenter guy, the Minatomo. That there's that guy in other places, and it's like, okay, they're related, But then we had a gap. I forget the number, but there was a few people not accounted for, and it's like we were talking about like, oh, is Shiki in that group? The Kozuki is an interesting one because the Kozuki shouldn't have been fleeing Wano. Because they were the ones in power, and so like the battle, whatever, between the daimyo, the families, it'd be interesting to know why a Kozuki wanted to leave. And I floated the idea in one of my videos, the Kozuki versus Amatsuki thing, like there having been a civil war of some sorts back in the Void Century, because the poneglyph text is Kozuki specific. It's not Wano specific. So why would a isolated, Wano centric area have text or writing that kind of keeps another clan out? Why would you have Kozuki specific? Then that tells you, like, when that's happened in the past, it's because, we were at war with this other country. That's how some languages ended up dividing in certain ways, and dialects even came out of play. But something that I was also thinking about when it comes to like some of the names of like, we have like, Kiku would count. I think her thing is like Kiku of the Falling Snow. And so it's like they were found in Kiku, and Izo were found in Ringo. And so I was like, like maybe they are a branch family of the Shimotsuki. Shimotsuki meaning frost moon. So they're of the falling snow. So it's like a derivative of frost moon. And maybe that's how some of the other names of came out. Like Hyogoro is flower, of the flower something, I think. And he's in the flower capital. That was the Yakuza. But then light moon, maybe it's like light makes flowers. I don't know. But another idea that I was thinking about in the regards of the Kurozumi was that another thing that could be possible would be that, like, what if there were, like, I guess, forbidden lovers, right? Like let's Sukiyaki had a sister was a Kozuki, fell in love with the Kurozumi is being hunted. Where would they go? They would probably flee the nation. And then the other part of it is, if the Kurozumi are being hunted, then it'd be hard for them to leave the nation. So it's not uncommon for in refugee situations where people had to, like, World War II had a lot of this, people who kind of were, like, for lack, I don't know what the correct term is, but like, a soft, like, white passing, so like people who were accepted by the Nazi regime, moonlighted as people who smuggled people out of safety. And so could it be possible that, the Kozuki person with a Kurozumi left, and Moria had some kind of connection with them? It could be. But then, and you also brought up like Perona and Toko, they possibly could have some connections because there's a lot of visual thing. And now connecting Moria, who adopted Perona, maybe she has a connection to Wano as well. So as far as like Moria being from a family that came and left Wano during the Kurozumi hunt, or after during the Kurozumi hunt, it can make a lot of sense. I would wonder if there's Kurozumi there. But where I'm kind of like soft drawing the line is that I would like that version of it more than it being like Odin's brother, like biologically, or even Sukiyaki just like adopt. Like, let's say he's like Shimotsuki, whatever, and he came back and Sukiyaki was just like, oh, this is this is the son I always wanted, and he adopted him. Like, I don't like either one of those because it just makes it so obnoxious. But I would almost say that I like the adopted route more because then we wouldn't have to put on the whole learning poneglyphs onto Moria, like him knowing the poneglyphs text. If he's adopted, maybe he doesn't have that. Because like, it's not like Momo has it, right? Momo didn't have the time to learn it. So Moria maybe doesn't know the poneglyph text. And then like the other part that maybe the adopted thing, we didn't talk about this part on stream, was that if he was like true Kozuki and he was on Wano, then that would mean that he has birthright swords, right? Like, because Odin had his swords made for him because he's like Kozuki. So then if he was Kozuki on Wano, like that, like obviously like, you know, we know he's born in West Blue, but like, you know, in the scope of like, he is pure blood Kozuki and he made it in time to get the, you know, thing, then would he have swords made after him, like for him? And then I was like, wait a second, does his scissors split in half? Because he has scissors. And then I remember the scissors had like interesting handles. And then people were like, yo, in Marineford, I think it's like chapter 556 or 559, something like that. He splits them and he's using them like swords. And I'm like, what? That's crazy. But they don't look like, it basically looks like a sword with reverse hilt because it's scissor handles. So, but it looks like you know how Meppo's like kukri knives or whatever? It looks like that, huge, with a reverse katana hilt. And I'm like, wait a second, maybe he also got Kozuki blades made for him. And, you know, like, it's just, we're going to find out. We're going to find out that those scissors, those blades are like, not supreme grade, but they're like
I think
cursed.
supreme grade.
Oh, do you think they're supreme?
I think Moria has supreme grade blades.
But, okay, but the scissors aside, right? Like, the one thing that has to be the case, right, is that like he wasn't buried with his sword.
He was not. So
that tells you he had to have taken it. If he's Kozuki, if he's a hero, if he's a pirate, not pirate, hero, Kozuki, and is respected by Wano, he had to have had swords like for him, like dedicated. And we know that in Ringo they buried him with the sword, but it's gone. So that means he took the swords. And if he took the swords, then I like to think it's the scissors. But if it's not the scissors, then he has something. And if it's either way, if there's Supreme Game blades,
he could pull like a, you know, for you video game players out there, he could pull like a Malekith, where like now that, you know, Absalom's dead, now that he has to lock in again, he's like, become my blade once more. And then he reaches into the shadows and then he pulls out like a legendary katana. But also another thing about Moria's scissors is that he, you know, like you said, when he splits it into two, he's dual wielding his sword, which reminds me of Odin's two sword style. So he's literally just like a Kozuki through and through. Like, he is that guy. Dual blade Moria, he needs to make a comeback. I think he will. Dude, Moria in 2025. And also, I will say this, as far as Moria being a poneglyph reader, I like that. I think we need to give him that as well. Mainly because of Cross Guild. Like, if he joins Cross Guild, yes, he brings along a lot of power. Yes, he brings along, you know, a zombie army that Cross Guild could use because, they have a lot of dead marine bodies. Yeah, bring Moria in for that. But they need to read the poneglyphs, right? Buggy wants to find the One Piece. How are they going to do that? They can collect all the poneglyphs. It doesn't matter. They need Moria. Moria needs to be able to read the poneglyphs. So, yeah, I'm going to give him that ability. I think there's nothing wrong with that as well. You know, I've seen people saying that, you know, oh, Moria, he's not like the heir to the throne. He wouldn't be taught this. But we don't know what his family's like, right? Like, if he is a pure blood Kozuki or a Kozuki-Kurozumi like you mentioned, then there's a chance that they just taught him that outside of Wano. Like, hey, we don't know what Wano's like. We don't know if the Kozuki are still in power. We're just going to teach you this, kid, so that you know what's up. So yeah, Moria knowing that, W.
Yeah, that's why him not being pure blood Kozuki is almost better, because I don't want to give him the poneglyph thing, but I understand the value of it, right? Because like even with Roger, right? Roger was on this path of like, I'm gonna go to Laugh-Tale, not knowing what Laugh-Tale is. I need to read this text. Can't read it. Shit, what do I do? Opens up the newspaper and is like, well, god damn, we got a Wano knees on the ocean. Let me go pick his ass up. And he's just fighting on an island, killing Navy. And then Odin shows up. That he didn't do, it was just so convenient for Roger when you think about it. There, as far as what we got from it, I need this guy. Next chapter, oh look, he came to me. It was so convenient. And it's Odin's flashback, whatever. We don't see the struggle that Roger went through, whatever. But it's convenient. And if that were to happen to Buggy, that's his character. Buggy's literally like, he would literally have the same reaction as when Roger realized that Neko and Inu were like, oh, red stones? We have one of those on the elephant. And Roger's like, why didn't you tell me earlier? Right? That's the same level of with Buggy if Moria were to join, because Buggy also saw the reaction with Odin. He recognized like, okay, Captain wants this guy, reads squiggles, guy brought him Skypea, read the squiggles, and then Roger orgasmed. And then the next chapter we open, we see how important it was, because they went to Wano and just like didn't stop. They were so much of a rush. They just sent Odin in, he got the stuff back and then left. So Buggy like realized that. So the moment like Moria reveals, or somehow it's revealed that he's Kozuki, Buggy will know exactly what to do. And that being said, I think that there's many ways that it could, Buggy could be put in the race for the poneglyphs. I don't think it has to be Moria. If Moria went back to Wano and just mogged everybody who's I'm the next Kozuki. I can command Zunisha. I'm supposed to know Wano. Like, nope, that's Moria's job, right? Like it's like a weird balancing act where it's like, do we put Moria in Wano to just stunt on everybody, or do you give him pure blooded Kozuki thing so that he can be useful for another pirate? Because essentially that's right. Like, I wonder if Blackbeard knew. How crazy it would be if Blackbeard knew that it's like, I know your real name, and then Moria's like biting his tongue. He's like, shit.
I think so. I actually think Moria, his whole like info about being a Kozuki, I think Blackbeard did know, and that's why Blackbeard didn't kill Moria outright. Right. One of the first things Blackbeard did was that he offered Moria a spot within his crew. Moria said, hell no. And then Blackbeard should have realistically just killed Moria right there and took his shadow fruit, because Blackbeard is a devil fruit collector, but he didn't. Yeah. Which was always a little bit odd. It's like, okay, like I get it, right? Blackbeard might not be able to eat the fruit because he already has 2. But at least somebody in his crew, or maybe he could sell it, he could give it to somebody else. Like, there's so many different avenues Blackbeard could have gone down. So why did he keep Moria alive? Well, if it's because of the poneglyph reading, then yeah, that makes sense, right? Of course, we have Pudding, but Pudding's not awakened yet. Pudding isn't a guarantee. Moria is. I think Blackbeard knows. 100%. And maybe it could be because of Odin, right? Blackbeard knew Odin to an extent, so maybe they had like some small conversation here or there, where Odin's like, yeah, I have a weird long-distant cousin named Moria. Like, I read a letter about this guy before, and then that's why Blackbeard decided to keep it, right? There are ways to explain why Blackbeard would have that information. Yeah. Oh, dude, Moria, brother. Another thing we do got to bring up. When it comes to Moria, do you think he's going to make an appearance in the cover page story? Because that would be kind of nuts.
I mean, at this point, I think so, because he's not on Hachinosu. He's not coming to Elbaph. That would be, I mean, okay, like, I'm not saying he's not coming to Elbaph, because like I have a bias towards I want him to come to Elbaph because of some of the things that transpired recently, but I think that like putting him in Wano now makes so much sense that I feel like if the cover story, we don't know the timeline of the cover story, right? Is it slightly in the past, or is it like concurrent? if it's concurrent, or actually no, the Hachinosu Moria escaping with from the Kobe thing, that was a little while ago, right? Because that was before Egghead.
That was before Egghead. Yeah, he escaped a while ago, dude.
Yeah, so time.
Yeah. That's like right before, if not like during the beginning of Egghead. Yes.
Yeah, because Garp was going to Hachinosu and Doll was like, they called us towards Egghead, and he's like, yeah, we're gonna go that way, right? Like it was that was the call at the same time. Like that was the same chapter. Everyone's getting the call, and then they just went the other way. And
then by the time Garp got there, Moria was already gone.
Right. So even before that. And now we're in Elbaph. We're about like at least a week after, right? Like, because it took like 3 days to get to Elbaph. It was like a day and a half or whatever for Egghead. And then while we're on Elbaph, it's only been like a day actually, right? They didn't sleep yet.
Yeah, they didn't sleep yet.
Damn. That's the one thing about fiction that always gets me. I'm like, bro, they're so efficient. They're so.
It's I kind of wish One Piece wasn't like that, where it's like, oh, by the way, the entire Straw Hat journey was like a couple of months. It's like, huh? It's been less than a year. The Straw Hats. We've been reading this story for 28 years. What's that? What do you mean?
I gotta wake up. Give myself a little 10 minutes, get a glass of coffee. Read the morning news. Son wakes, changes diaper, all stuff, and then boom, like 2 hour goes by. These guys saved an entire country in that time. And I'm like, damn, what am I doing?
What am I doing with my life? Which I do want to ask you, and I guess the general audience here. It sounds kind of crazy. I think I've never called you guys audience members, but to everybody watching this video,
they leveled up.
I know they leveled up, dude. Would you guys like One Piece to keep its original pacing when it comes to like in story time? Or no, do you want there to be like more of a time gap? Like, instead of the Straw Hats only traveling for 1 year, minus the time skip, of course, it's like 10 years and you see Luffy and the rest like grow up and like mature, etc. Because I think one benefit that could come out of like having, longer time periods in between islands is that we could add more filler in later. Like, oh yeah, during year 7, this actually happened. And then we just add in a random island that the Strats were on for a couple of months. Not like we need that per se. I think Oda could just always do that. But I think it's just fun to like have that. Like, oh, imagine we started One Piece and all of these guys were kids and teenagers. And then when we end One Piece, we have like adult ass Luffy. And because I think that would be really cool. But I get why Oda wouldn't want to do that. But I don't know. I mean, it's the way I think about it is that the whole audience for One Piece, we're all aging, dude. I started watching One Piece when I was like 8. And now look at me. Here I am like 20 years later. And it's like, damn, dude. I think it would be cool if Luffy grew up with us. You know what I mean? But I don't know. It's also nice. Like Pokemon where it's like, maybe it's better if they don't grow up. Like Ash Ketchum.
Pokemon's a whole
Ash Ketchum, the eternal 16-year-old.
Is he? I thought he's like 10.
I don't know how old he is, brother.
He goes on his journey.
Ash is something.
In their world, once you hit 10, you got to get a job, and it's either you get a job or you become a Pokemon trainer, and you send your 10-year-old into the wild to fight mythical monsters and to have superpowers with a ball.
Have you seen the AI generated images of Pokemon 2 in real life?
What do you mean?
People have been AI generating images of Pokemon in real life, and they're just so cursed. And like imagine like a Scizor, right? Like in Pokemon, it's like, oh, they're so cool. And then realistic Scizor is like, oh, that's gonna freaking kill me, dude. What the hell?
Oh yeah. Praying mantis, bro. There was a praying mantis outside my window the other day, and then there was a grasshopper, like both praying mantis bigger. Shit got clocked, bro. And praying mantis easy, no diff. It was nuts.
For its size, insane. The praying mantis is like one of the strongest insects out there, or deadliest, I guess.
I've seen way too many praying mantises that I feel like they're not even common over here. I just like one time there was one right outside my car door, and I was like, bro, I'm scared. I could kill
lock the doors, please.
Yeah, no, it was blocking my door. I couldn't get in, and so like my wife's like, why aren't you getting in? I was like, yeah, I don't know if I should like fight this praying mantis. She's like, fight? What are you fighting? And I was like, see, like, it's not the same thing as just stepping on this. I don't know what the fuck might happen if I step on it. Does it just
cuts through your shoe?
Like, yeah. Does it just like leave its blade up? I step and then I like lose a foot. Like, I don't know. I never had to like swat a praying mantis. I didn't end up needing to, but like, they got praying mantises have some insane aura, is what I'll say.
They do. They'd have conquerors hockey by birth. They're kind of like the Lunarians of the insect world, really.
Yeah. There was I mean, most people have like a flinch reflex type thing. So like, when it comes to bugs, I'm kind of like, but like when it comes to like taking care of it, I'll kill it, no problem. And then if I'm in like when we're hiking or whatever, sometimes you just get jump scared by bugs, and like reaction is just wow. You just like, oh shit. You just
oh my god,
like,
I hate going out into the wilderness, dude. Like, I mean, not even the wilderness, right? Just like the slight mild forest. Because, Oklahoma, we have a lot of country land. So, if you're in a farm, you like, you chase something like I used to chase rabbits. Yeah. And when they would fly out, it's like, okay, like I'm just chasing this rabbit around. And 1 to 2 trees deep, you start seeing like zipper spiders. You start seeing like, crazy insects that you've never heard of before just hanging around in trees. It is the worst.
They start inventing new shit. Like,
God is spawning in new insects and animals that I've never seen before, brother. And like I said, you don't even have to be like deep in the forest. You could just be like 2 trees deep and you're like, wait, what the hell is this thing?
Dude, that happened at my, in Alabama, my cousin, they had a backyard, and that's when I registered. Like, backyard up here means something different, because up here when you have a backyard, you own your backyard. Like your backyard is yours, it's your territory. In his backyard, he had chickens. He had and it was a small backyard. I mean, they were growing chickens. A lot of people in the neighborhood would, but then there was like there was a tree, and behind the tree was not their territory. There was just like spiders and frogs, and some of them were like deadly, and I'm like, the fuck, like get rid of this shit. And they're like, yeah, but like more will just come.
They're just gonna come back.
So it's better just keep this here, and then it'll deter the other scary stuff. And I'm like, that's some wild ass shit. But like they were right in that regard. But praying mantises, they are like there was one time a praying mantis. I was in a garden store, so like my mom was buying flowers and stuff for a garden, and just like on a leaf, like on a hibiscus, like I don't know, hibiscus, like a giant leaf, a praying mantis right here. I was like maybe like 8 or something, and my reflex kicked in, but then something stopped me. I was like, oh shit. And I started backing up. My mom was like, what? Because she's never seen that reaction. And I was like, there's a praying mantis. She's like, what? And then we saw it was a giant praying mantis. And like, that's how much aura, like, because I've accidentally swatted like a bee or a wasp, whatever, but a praying mantis, bro, it wasn't even trying to do shit. It was just on a leaf. It was just like, that. And I was like,
man, the way we talk about praying mantises, people who probably don't know what they are, they're like, what the hell are these things? Like, how big are they?
Yeah, it's insane. And now there's a new DLC in Australia. They discovered a new, I don't even think it's a stick bug anymore. The new largest bug is a stick bug, but it's 15 inches big, and it's like a branch, and it disguises so insanely well. It's ridiculous. It's so crazy.
Nature's playing in a different ballpark, brother. We're over here playing like Summoner's Rift. They're over here playing ARAM, bro. That's crazy.
Yeah. It's funny, like the way we talked about it too. Like you leave your house, you go 3 trees deep. The God starts rendering new things.
Yeah, they start loading in Minecraft mods. So speaking of Minecraft mods and praying mantises having aura, if Gecko Moria comes to Wano, somebody brought up a good thing. They're like, hey, like would Gecko Moria feel very indebted to the Straw Hats for saving his homeland?
Oh yeah, dude, for sure.
I think so.
Because that's the new nuance of this. Like, there's so much. That's what I was saying earlier. Like, the 2 words, the name, changed so much of the story, and I'm so glad that Oda did the wordplay of it. Because if we did not have the flip of the kanji, we'd be fighting a battle of like retcon this, that. But no, this is not, and it's. the change that the name has given is so vast. Like, I feel like we could talk about it for weeks and still come up with new things. And one of the ones is that when we first got that Moria lost to Kaido and was fighting Kaido, it was in the scope of Mugiwara Luffy or Straw Hat Luffy, you won't make it to the New World. You're too weak. I know, because I lost myself. And I realized that I need immortals on my side now. And like, when we got that, it was in the scope of, oh, Moria's a failed pirate king. And he was like Luffy of his generation of some sort. And he failed so hard. He's now a miserable warlord who's just chilling with zombies and has no friends type of deal. You know, I'm exaggerating, but like, now it's changed where it's not that he was wanting to be Pirate King. It could be completely disjointed. It could literally just be the same motivations that Odin had, the regrets that he might have built up by leaving with Roger and letting Kaido infiltrate and take over. Because he could have stayed. He went back for the Poneglyph, realized the destruction, and literally turned a blind eye to it because he was like, this trip with Roger is more important, and I have to bite my lip here and just walk away. And the reality is, he probably didn't want to do that. Like, his full heart wasn't there. Whereas Moria, if he's Kozuki and he has any sort of legitimate tie, which has to be the case because they buried him as Kozuki Moria. That means everybody else knew he was Kozuki Moria, and they did it out of reverence. They built him a whole building. This is something you do for Ryuma. This is something you do for like a select few. I don't even know if Odin got one of these. But like, point is, you know, Pirate of Justice, that's what the hero from the West Blue, they knew who the hell Moria was. And so that tells us that he had sentimental tie to Wano, and then 100% once he gets the news or whatever. That's the other thing too. Blackbeard, when he saw him in chapter 25, was like reverie, yada yada yada. But the end of it, and the New Blood is taking down or fighting Big Mom and Kaido in Wano, which that would have been like, wait a second, what? They made it to Wano? Like, that Moria probably heard that, and there might have been an extended conversation about that part. And that could be a reason why Moria ends up going back after he escapes, is because that was the last news he might have heard. Unless Blackbeard gave him more information. It could be that Blackbeard, while he's in prison, taunted his ass with like, Moria, didn't you want to liberate Wano? Look at this. And he just slaps him in the face with Luffy's news update of liberating Wano. And he's just like, well, damn, I guess I got to go celebrate, Shit, I'm missing the parties.
Yeah, I got to go see my people.
I got to go see my papa, talking about Sukiyaki,
Yeah, no, that could totally be it. And what's funny, too, is that, Yamato, one of the main reasons she stayed, outside of wanting to journey around Wano, she was also kind of like a protector of Wano, too, right? Right now, if somebody were to come, Yamato could fight them, and it's all dandy. If Moria comes, I'm not saying he anchors in Wano, but he could legitimately be the new guardian deity. Like, Yamato's like, hey, I was going to stay here to protect it, but I mean, we got Uncle Moria now. Or, obviously we want Moria back out on the seas because he has that much, sway in the world. We could even have it to where, of course, people are going to get mad when I say this. There can be more than one. But we could simply plant Cross Guild in Wano too. Just have Cross Guild fly their flag, have Cross Guild have a mini base of operations, and then guess what? The Navy will not attack Wano because it's Yonko territory. Right, they won't attack without permission. And people are like, oh, but Sai, Luffy's flag is there. Luffy's friends with them. Yes. But guess what? They can have more than one emperor stationed at an island, especially if they're friendly. Right? Like, it's not like Moria's going to come over here saying, get that flag out of here. It's like, no, like, they wouldn't do that. I doubt Buggy would do that. And then plus, you got to imagine, right? Outside of Moria, Buggy is also friendly with Wano. I think people forget that. But Buggy knew Odin. They traveled together. Buggy was probably at Wano as well. We didn't see Buggy or Shanks there, but at the time when they visited... Inu. Yeah, Buggy knows Inu and Nekomamushi. Like, that's the thing. Yeah. Like, Buggy and Shanks, they have that connection with Wano. If they were to go there today, yes, Moria would be welcomed and Buggy would be welcomed. I highly doubt that they would be antagonistic to Wano and that they would try to mess it up. Given like, their past relationship. Because I've seen people saying that maybe Moria and Buggy like run rampant in Wano. They send Mihawk to kill all the swordsmen. It's like, I don't think that's what's happening here. Like they're way too friendly, man.
We don't know post-prison Moria, right? Did he get the Iroh treatment? Does it is this, like, did he get the time skip buff?
Had to.
Hockey? Is his fruit awakened?
Has to be. I'm saying yes to everything. Give Moria everything at this point, dude.
We give him minimum 4 buffs. And it's crazy. But people have to recognize a lot of other characters got those same buffs.
Look at Rob Lucci, right? Rob Lucci's a prime example of a post-time skip buff that went insane. Crocodile's Bounty from 81 million to 1.9. Gecko Moria is at 320. What is his bounty afterwards? Is he in the 2 billions? Is that what Moria's getting? Because, people might scoff like 2 billion Moria. Crocodile almost hit 2 billion from 81. Yeah, I think Moria could probably hit 2 billion. It's not absurd to think.
I think the Kozuki thing is so catastrophic that when we got the first Kozuki in prominence, which would be like Odin strength, that it became a thing where it's like, okay, Momo gets aged up, looks exactly like Odin. Does he get conquers? There's like a scale up that Kozuki gets, right? Like, I'd almost argue that, hey, Sukiyaki when he was younger is probably insane. You know what I mean? Like, before he was desk job Sukiyaki, he's probably pretty strong.
That's a meme.
Yeah, hey, it's just the Kozuki thing. You know what I mean? Like, the only slight on the name at this point is Hiyori, who like set us up for the most wildest
but she's a
revenge.
Woman.
Yeah, but she had the setup against Orochi.
Okay, that sounds sexist, by the way. I'm joking.
She had the blade. She was ready, and then.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of that. I am one of the people who was a little bit, very actually disappointed that Hiyori didn't kill Orochi. I saw that floating around on Twitter the other day. Actually, people were like, "Oh, like I can't believe Oda did this to Hiyori," and then people were like, "Oh, what? Hiyori's gonna kill an 8-headed Hydra?" It's like, dude, Orochi had a nail and he couldn't transform for like 20 chapters. Like, Hiyori could have easily just kill him.
She did the nails. That's why the setup was there. She's the one who's just like, oh, he's on fire right at that point. He's nailed down. Like, he can't do shit. And it's like the perfect setup. At that point, let's be misogynist. Just treat it like she's cooking a snake or some shit, right? Like,
and
it's just
she just ended up monologuing for so long that the nail got knocked loose, and then obviously, like, that's when Denjiro comes in. And I would just argue, like, plot aside, it's like Oda kind of wrote it that way to where Hiyori wouldn't get the W at the end. I don't know why. Like, maybe he didn't want Hiyori to get her hands dirty, which, if that's the case, sure. But the way it was done made it seem a little bit silly. Like, she went from, like, a badass heroine to damsel in distress within, like, 2 seconds. It's like, okay, come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
And had she taken that on her own hands, I'm not saying it would be better or worse, but when she goes in front of the crowd and goes like, Orochi was meant to burn, whatever, like in the charcoal referring, whatever, it would have been like, it would have not, because like a lot of people was just like on the meaning, like the family thing. But I'm also like, who is she to say that? You couldn't even do that shit when it was handed to you on a platter. You handed it to yourself on a platter and then you lost it. But anyways, Hiyori hate aside, the Kozuki name, a lot of strength comes from it, just from being Kozuki. Like, to the point where it's like, anytime Odin had a feat as a kid, they're like, oh, that must be that Kozuki blood going through him, right? And now we know Moria has that. Probably, if he's not adopted, which, I'm all for him being Kozuki actual blood, right? Now, he doesn't have his sword buried here. He probably kept his sword, but he didn't use the Shusui. Maybe the sword is more mean, because I feel like that would be the only reason why you wouldn't just wield the Shusui yourself. Maybe the Shusui didn't accept him, which would be kind of interesting. like it accepts Shimotsuki, not Kozuki. That'd be kind of cool. That'd be kind of interesting. Maybe Moria didn't have enough hockey. Man, I don't know if I like that. If we're talking about like Prime, Moria, that kind of thing. But he also had Ryuma's actual corpse. So why not just give him the Shusi? Sure. He has his own story. He's coming back post-prison. We're giving him minimum 4 buffs. Let's go with the first. Let's. I want to take this in levels of strength. Okay, let's send him to Wano. Where does he match up against Yamato? Does he even?
If we're talking about Moria that locked in, people laugh at me when I say Prime Moria, but you've got to admit there is a difference between skinny Moria and fat as fuck Moria.
Okay.
Here's the thing:
Squash Moria and Cucumber Moria. Okay.
Yes.
The Squash Moria is a little weak.
Yes, for Prime Moria, if he does lock in, and he wants to, get revenge against Blackbeard for the death of Absalom, if he has the Uncle Iroh body, I think he even clashes with the Yamato. But then again, you gotta imagine, One Piece with even clashes, it's kind of like a meme. Ace was over here clashing with Yamato, he was clashing with Jinbei, he was clashing with, 50 other people. We even have it this chapter. It's clashes are a little bit silly, but I think he would clash with Yamato.
But this is a little bit different too, because I think that flashback clashes to a certain extent are wonky because you put a character like Ace and Yamato. We see Yamato now and we're like, Ace did that a year ago or 2 years ago. What the where was that Ace?
Where's that Marineford?
Yeah, if you put a Yamato character at Marineford, they are messing up a lot of people. That's not even close. But the thing is, you can't. It's hard, to take it from a writing point of view. It's hard to put in an X point of view, transition into the future, and then apply it to a third scene there. It's this is not a reasonable thing to expect, right? So that aside, what we're looking at here is that the most recent thing we have from Yamato is that cover story aside, is that she suppressed an admiral. Whether the admiral is full seriousness and locked in or surprised, whatever, I think it's reasonable enough to say that Yamato could suppress a Green Bull. And that's an insane thing. If we're saying that Moria ends up even clashing at that, then you could kind of say that Moria could also suppress an admiral. I'm not saying beat, I'm not saying win out, I'm not saying he's I would say that even if he loses, it would take a long time. And that's an insane thing for Moria to do. The Moria from Thriller Bark versus an admiral.
I mean, you got to imagine, right? Obviously, we don't get the full context of this clash, which then again, another clash. But Moria clashed with Kaido when Kaido was I don't call it Prime Kaido, but it was a younger Kaido.
Post Rocks Kaido,
yeah. Moria was clashing with that guy. So, if you really just buff Moria back up to that state, yeah, I could totally see him putting in some work. And that brings up the meme. Scarier. That brings up the meme, dude. What was Odin doing, man? Why didn't he fight with his cousin? That is the $1 million question. Because if you go to chapter 969, right?
Yeah.
You have Moria in Ringo fighting Kaido, and then the very next panel is Odin dancing naked. Brother, it makes him look so much worse. Dude, I get what Odin was doing. He was getting fooled by Orochi and Kaido. But really, if he logged in with his cousin, they would win. Moria would clean up pretty much all the other beast pirates. Moria had a crew, so they could, handle King, Queen, Jack for a little bit. Hell, you could even say that Moria fights those guys, and then the scabbards are freed up. Either way, you have almost double your manpower with Moria at your side. Moria, who is fighting for possibly the greater good of Wano, not a bad guy at this point in time, mind you. Dude, if Odin worked with him, we would be coming into a very different Wano. We would go to Wano, it would be peaceful. Moria, we would never have to fight him at Thriller Bark, because guess what? Thriller Bark does not exist at that point. It is literally just the Florian Triangle, and that's it.
Yeah,
We'd have
the
a happy
Odin-
Moria. Moria could be teaching Zoro, like, I don't know, Kozuki style when we hit Wano, because Moria would just be that happy. Oh, a Shimotsuki, huh? I love you guys. Like, different guy, dude. Different guy.
No, he's raised in Ringo. That's the Zoro's hometown, basically. You know, that's his origin
That
story.
is true. The Shimotsuki owned Ringo. You know, Ushimaru was the daimyo there. Imagine, dude. Like, yeah, Gecko Moria would kind of like Zoro.
Moria knew Ushimaru.
Stupid.
He had to have. He had because he was alive then.
Yeah, he was alive.
Right?
He knows Zoro's uncle 100%.
In terms of retcon, that would be the one thing Moria looks at Zoro is like, the fuck? What is Ushimaru here? You know what I mean?
To
like,
be fair, Moria didn't interact with Zoro that much.
Yeah, he didn't. He did it from like within Orz's belly. So it's like, for the most part, it's like, I think we off-screened the part where he actually took Sanji and Zoro's like shadows. They were like disappeared. Yeah. So like, it might have been that Moria did diddle Zoro a little bit. Like, wait a second, this is Shimotsuki right here? This shit looks like Ushimaru.
And you know how he'd say it too. I can already hear it. Shimotsuki, huh?
Yeah.
It was something silly, yeah.
Yeah, that's the one part. I don't care how we cope with the context here. Odin, that's what I'm saying. It can't be his brother. It can't be adopted.
No, I lean towards cousin.
My cousin, fine. If it's that far off, he's off of the island. He's known, but the thing is, at minimum, he is a known Kozuki on Wano at the same time that Odin's here. When we're looking at chapter 969 and you do the whole thing where you see Moria there, he is fighting as Kozuki Moria. And when you go to the next panel and you see Odin dancing, he's dancing as Kozuki Odin. And they are both known names, very known names. That like one's being laughed at and the other one's being like, yo, he's fighting them. And we even have things like Hyogoro who's like, I wish I fought with Odin. And it's like, what about Moria? Did you wish you fought with Moria? Did you know Moria? And like,
if we get a flashback or, you know, a scene where Moria approaches Odin saying, please, Kyodai, fight with me. We must save Wano right now. And then Odin's like, sorry, Moria, I must take off my clothes and twerk in the streets. It's like, no! Dude, that would be such, like, the only way, you know, I still like Odin, by the way. Like, you know, minus his final moments, you know, the whole thing with Orochi, minus that, love Odin. But here's the thing. The only way this would look good for Odin is if he had no clue Moria was on the island. Like maybe Moria wanted to do a solo dolo mission. He said, I'm not going to bother my family. I'm going to solve this right here and now. That is the only way this would feel good. Because if Odin did know that Moria was here and he didn't fight with his family member to save Wano, that would be awful.
Yeah.
And then even the scabbards, like maybe like, sure, they have 9 of those guys. Surely at least one of the scabbards said, hey, Odin, you know, your cousin's here. And he wants to fight for his homeland. Do you want to help your cousin, please?
Yeah.
Holy crap.
I'm thinking about it, like, I get mad at my cousins if they're in like even within the tri-state area and they need help. You know what I mean? And they don't call me. I'm like one of my cousins, like they were 2 hours away and their car broke down. I was like, bro, just just call me. You know I'm nearby. I can just go, and I did. And I'm like, I was like, that would be insane if they were just like in my town. They know where I live and they just don't ask me for help. I'm like, why? What's happening?
Give me a line, dude. I got nothing else to do. Like, you know, it's not like Odin was busy.
Yeah, he's dancing.
He's dancing naked and being laughed at. And then minus Odin, you know, okay, sure. Odin wants to keep his promise. The Akazaya 9, where were they? You know, if you want to say Odin had duties, fine. Like I said, I understand why Odin did what he did. You know, he's very gullible, kind of like King Harald. You know, gullible to a fault. But the thing is that the Akazaya 9 didn't have to dance naked. They could have fought.
Toki's here. Like, there's so many Kozuki loyals that are just here. That, like, they were relying on Odin. They were waiting for his return to save them. And then he starts dancing. But he's not in the know. They're like, you're telling me, right? One of these hecklers, because Odin had thousands, if not millions. I don't know how many people live on Wano. They're like, oh, loser Odin, what are you doing? Why don't you go fight? That shit's happening. Not one of them are like, hey, Odin, your cousin's fighting right now. I just saw him. And he's like, nah, sorry, I'm too busy.
I just got a new BBL. I got to test it out, guys. Like, oh my God, Odin, please.
The next line, I shit you not, guys. Moria, Kaido, Odin, and the next line from Odin, do you want a divorce? That's the next line to Toki. Toki's is like, is that a joke or are you trying to make me mad? It's like, somebody bring up the guy.
Please. You know what's funny too? Imagine if Sukiyaki, which I guess by this point in time, they think Sukiyaki's dead. But imagine Sukiyaki saw Moria and he's like, oh, thankfully Moria is going to save us. Hopefully Odin, my son, fights alongside him. And he's like, what? Where's Odin? Well, like, imagine getting that news while, you're in prison or something. I forgot if Sukiyaki was in prison or if he was hiding his the Tengu at that point in time. But surely Sukiyaki heard about this fight going down. And it's like, damn, bro, that sucks.
I think he escapes when Odin
dies.
Something like when that whole like everybody was thing, and then we saw the daimyo were all fighting, and then there was that one hand that like it looked like his sword. I think that was it, but like we don't know if he fought or he was escaping. You know what I mean? Like,
I think he just escaped. Sukiyaki escaped, and he said, "Well, I'm gone now. I'm going to the woods."
Yeah, like the thing about like, hey, I just want to acknowledge. You know how crazy of like we've been keeping the Kozuki name alive for the last 3 years
with Sukiyaki's
lineage. Yeah, and the thing is, like, it's cementing the foundation of like their relevance to Wano, and the fact that we continue to talk about, in a lot of ways, uniqueness about the failures of Sukiyaki and all the things that he could have done differently. To find out that there was another avenue that he most likely knew about, like that's the other part. Is he probably at some point, you know what I mean? Like whether he got a letter from off the island or some shit, you know what I mean? Like there's probably a way that he knew. Like maybe he got news because his Wano was isolated, but they still got news. You know what I mean? Like they still could get news. Orochi literally taunted Odin with some of the news, right? Like that was like a literal thing. But again, like the whole, I feel like it has to be the Moria asked Odin, and I don't know what kind of shit Odin was on, but Odin had to pull.
But Moria, they have 100 prisoners I must save. The 100 prisoners that are literally already dead and sold off to slavery that Orochi tricked him with. My God.
That Odin is just like, you're not him. The prophecy says no. Because he went to Laugh-Tale. He's like, in 20 years. And he's like, well, shit. It's not us, brother. It's someone else. We just die. Silly. Why not? You know, like, is that what it is? Because, like, sometimes I look at Odin's dancing. I'm not saying, like, I never said this in the video. But, like, I said, as far as the Rogers Pirates goes, and, Vegapunk had the very same thing. It's like, why did they react the way they did? You know, like, if there's anything we could take away from what the One Piece and the Void Century is, it's their reactions. And so, I was like, okay, let's look at Crocus and Rayleigh. Those are the two strongest examples, and they both lived subaquatic lives. Does that mean that there's a flood incoming? You could pull off from that and get that. But then you look at Odin, it's like, okay, so then why was he just dancing? Like, did he read the One Piece, saw his nation was under like thing, and he's just like, I'm gonna just shake ass. Hopefully this shit fixes somehow.
Well, to be fair, Odin wanted to release Wano. He wanted to break the walls. Which
did he want to cause an earthquake with his cheeks?
Hey,
like, what's happening?
If he wanted to do that, the best way to do it is to team up with Moria and get control of Wano. I don't know, man.
And okay, so now
because Moria would have done it too. Like Moria as a Kozuki, if Odin said, "Hey, brother, cousin, let's open the borders," Moria, I doubt he'd say no. Moria be like, yeah, sure, dude, let's do it. Yeah, 100%.
Here's the other thing. And before I get to the meme side of the other part, which is that like this is contingent on that wild, wacky theory that I like that we don't have to get into here. I talked a little bit about it on stream. But when I mentioned it, I think a lot of people in the comments were actually like, wait, no, like thinking about this more, it makes a lot of sense. And so the thing that I was saying is that like something that has to be brought into question, and I feel like during the pre-time skip and even afterwards, it just felt like, oh, this is just a One Piece logic thing, right? But
Yeah.
now, especially with the Galila in the front, which is the shipwrights, the legendary shipwrights of the past, where they are and who they are. Well, the Galila, whether Ja Rule meant it like they were frozen or there was an army of giants also frozen, and we know the Punk Hazard people, at least a lot of them lined up with the silhouettes. Like the reality is that they were frozen. Some semblance of giants were frozen, and then Moria got oars from a frozen land. So it's like, okay, how did he know about that? Was he chasing after the same thing that like Rocks was chasing after? Because we know that Rocks really wanted that group of people. We know that Harald and Ja Rule were aware of that group of people. But then separately than that is that Galila's descendants or inheritors of their title at Water 7, Iceberg. Funny name to be named Iceberg. I mean, Galila gets resurrected. Oh no, not another Iceberg. But his dream, after being trained by Tom, who put out the Pluton thing as one of the people from this ancient shipwright guild, Iceberg wants to convert Water 7 into a floating ship to deal with the thing. And what we have to recognize is that after Moria lost to Kaido, lost his crew, maybe he had one or two people, he went to the West Blue and solo converted an island into a ship that is the one island, one ship that could basically be completely fine from the terror that Vegapunk was predicting by the ancient weapons. Thriller Bark is largely immune. And the other thing is, it was brought to Hachinosu when Moria went to go save Absalom. And then once we got the rest of it, Thriller Bark was gone. So it's like he has Thriller Bark. And I'm not saying he could do it to Wano, but there is a ship at the bottom of there, apparently, and maybe Moria can do some shit with that. So it's like there's so many levels to like what the hell Moria could do on Wano that even his background as a character fits. He converted an island into a ship, and there's like an island level ship underneath Wano, and Wano itself is a floating thing, and an island got turned into a flying ship. And there's just so many. And now it turns out that Moria is probably strong enough for the story that he could probably just slice Wano in half. Like, I don't know how crazy. If he goes Shadows Asgard and then uses full hockey 4 buff Awakening Moria, sky's the limit,
you know
man.
what's something funny too? People were arguing. They were like, oh, Sai, even if Moria teamed up with Odin, he wouldn't be strong enough. Okay, cool. Nightmare Odin. you know how stupid that would be? Dude, Luffy took in 100 shadows, and Luffy was strong enough to fight Oars, a monster that the entire crew combined could not really fight. Brother, you put shadows into Odin. You know how strong... Moria doesn't have to fight. All he has to do is get shadows, put it into Odin, and Odin could beat Kaido. Like, people like to argue, like, oh, like, Odin wasn't that close. He didn't see Hybrid. Sure, I kind of agree with that to an extent.
Kill the scabbards, kill all the people who are dying
just
on the thing. Not dying, keep them alive. Moria is just like, hey, don't shoot to kill, just shoot to amputate. And then just take their shadows and then stuff them into Odin. As he's fighting Kaido, he gets stronger and stronger.
And the thing is,
blue and
if they planned it out, I'm not even joking, they could get the shadow of every Wano citizen and put it into Odin. And he would be the embodiment of Wano, which you could say, oh, but, they're losing their shadows. Moria could just give it back later. Like, taking your shadow doesn't automatically kill you as long as you stay inside. And if it's nighttime, even better. If it's nighttime, you just take it and no repercussions whatsoever. Yeah, and they fought at nighttime. Like, it is that simple.
It's almost like Odin planned to have Moria show up at the last minute because he fought at nighttime.
Yeah.
Imagine Odin was waiting for Moria to show up. Like, where? He said he'd be here. Where is he? And Moria's just like, you important show for me. About some
Yeah,
Mario ass.
dude. Imagine that. He's like, oh, any minute now, Moria's gonna show up and help me fight Kaido. Any minute, a shadow's gonna be shoved inside my gullet. And then Moria just never shows because he's like, quote, dead. Yeah.
It's crazy that people can't hypothesize a stronger version of Moria. I feel like the thing about Moria that, post Thriller Bark was like, he didn't feel strong enough. Like, people was saying he's too weak, he was loser, he's fighting Kaido. Once he got the hockey stuff, it's like he didn't have hockey. And it's like, I feel like there was so much for Moria that you could easily paint him as way stronger. It's not like an Enel post time skip or Crocodile post time. Like, Moria has like a lot going for him to make him easily stronger. And like his fruit, now added Kozuki, bloodline, give him a sword. He didn't fight Luffy with a sword. There's just so much shit. And I was asking the Yamato thing, even Clash might be even more, to the point that it might actually be, if he can read Poneglyph. Yeah, we have Sukiyaki, but Moria would be a lot more relevant. I'd hate to see Sukiyaki brought into relevance to tell us shit. Stop that nonsense. I'd much rather have Moria. But it would be crazy if he fought Yamato and they were like, Yamato was like, I need to stay back at Wano, Luffy, to defend it. And then Moria shows up, she starts boxing, and then she recognizes something. She recognizes it from Odin's journal, and Odin wrote about Moria in the journal.
Yeah, we could see that.
And she goes, is this Kozuki Moria? And he goes, Kishi, and like things like, I didn't think
I
someone
love how
would
his
remember
laugh
me.
is so stupid. We always have to do it. Like,
Yeah,
One Piece laughs I don't do, but Moria's stupid one, the Kishi, it's so good.
Well, his laugh is Luffy's laugh. When Luffy's Gear 5, his Nika laugh is
It's she.
It's just not the Kishi part.
Yeah,
Kishi
like makes sense for somebody who's a shadow, right? Shadow in the sun. Like, it kind of fits.
Yeah. So it's like, and then you add it together, Yashiki. But anyways, point is, it might be that Moria wrote about Odin wrote about Moria in his journal. Like, during the dancing, he's like, some guy who said he was my cousin showed up, but I don't have my dad to verify, so like I wasn't a sperm donor. Just some crazy wild shit like that. And then there might be that'd be an insane way for Oda to like smooth over a lot of bumps. If he's in Odin's journal and Yamato just had no clue like where this guy was like mentioned. Oh, he just vanished. Cool, whatever. It would smooth out some things. It'd still make things questionable. We could get the context of Odin and Moria from the journal because Odin could have wrote about it. This guy showed up to me. He looks nothing like me. Said he's my cousin. Apparently Wano believes him. I don't. I
think Odin would believe it. Because, I mean...
yeah, I think Odin would.
Yeah, because one of the first things Odin said, I forgot about this, but he says, never judge a person by their looks. And that was in reference to Nekomamushi, Inarashi, and Kawamatsu. So it's like, if he were to see Moria, like, he wouldn't care about how weird he looks. He'd probably be like, oh, yeah, it's probably my guy. And then plus, there's people in Wano to verify it, right? Because Moria was raised in Wano.
Yeah. It could even be like your nightmare thing where Sukiyaki just flushed down thing and just somewhere in the West Blue, spawned Moria. It could be that Sukiyaki was a sperm donor. He just, and it was the strongest sperm. It was the one that survived. It wiggled its way. It was the conqueror one.
And as far as like why Moria looks so weird, I feel like that's either something Oda's just not going to tackle, or maybe that branch of the Kozuki family actually did have some weird DNA. Maybe they did get funky with like some Oni or ancient giants, and that's why Moria has natural horns. Like, there's a lot of ways we could explain it. Too many to even like really talk about. But yeah, Moria's looks could. I feel like that's something we just write off for now. But
we don't know who Yamato's mom is, right?
Yeah, we still don't know Yamato's mom. So
if Yamato's mom and Sukiyaki, maybe the mom was like, "Hey, yo, Kaido, you be fucking shit up." She goes down to the basement, sees a Kozuki in there,
a handsome young Sukiyaki.
Yeah, that I've seen it in Game of Thrones. I've seen it in the history books. That's a thing. Kaido didn't give too much time to family, so it's like, who knows? Maybe the wife was just like, yo, Sukiyaki, trying to get freaky.
Timeline.
Oh no, but it'd have to be before.
I was about to say timeline wouldn't work, but it'd be a fun little a thought experiment though.
Yeah. I mean, she'd have to be able to fly too. She flew in, flew back to West Blue, gave birth, like some shit like that. But anyways, if you went the cross guild route, Moria's no longer Depresso. He's like, I need to make it back to Wano. He has his blades. He's wielding a supreme grade, not one, two. All right, let's give him that.
Just one. Well, kind of like
one.
Yeah. Let's say one supreme grade blade.
Because the scissors, there's one blade that has to be the sharp one, right? You don't need two sharp ones. Technically, you can have a flat edge and a sharp edge. So we can make one of them a supreme grade, right? Goes to cross guild. He's Kozuki. He gets all these buffs. We were like, oh, what happens if he faces Yamato? Does he win? Does he clash even? Is it respectable? Is he stronger? Whatever. But what happened? Because people were asking what happens if Odin fought Mihawk. But like, what if Moria fights Mihawk now? What would that look like?
Imagine 2 master swordsmen.
Yo,
I mean, Mihawk would win, of course,
brains.
But that'd be so funny, dude.
Mihawk might be like, don't lose your right hand, Moria. Whatever you do, don't lose that right hand.
I want to spar with you again.
Like anytime Moria's like at threat, we see Mihawk run like he stops and defends Moria. That'd be such a funny thing. He's like, no, not losing another rival. That'd be so
and
insane.
Speaking of Mihawk, like one of the genius things about having Moria be Kozuki, which we talked about this a little bit earlier, but Perona, right? If Perona also, just like Moria, has ties to Wano, her relationship with Zoro's even better now. Right, because Zoro had a nice relationship with Toko and a lot of Wano citizens. So it's like, dude, like that brother-sister relationship that they have, which some people even ship them, that's fine too. But it's like, dude, we got 2 Wano knees over here, man. That pretty much probably don't know that they're Wano citizens either. Or have Wano origins.
Yeah,
it's so good. And the thing too is that, Toko, she got adopted by Yasui. And, we're saying that Toko and Perona are probably, like, related somehow because of the bug eyes and the pink hair and the bangs. So it's like, yeah, like, we have Toko Shimotsuki by name, and then Zoro being with Perona. I know Perona's not a Shimotsuki because, that's not Toko's real last name, but, just having 2 Shimotsukis together during the time skip, that's just, it feels good. It's like, that explains kind of so much in a way. People are saying, by the way, that maybe Moria comes to Wano with Cross Guild, and because Moria and Buggy have decent ties with Wano, they protect it from Blackbeard, and they even get Pluton for themselves.
Yeah, I mean,
the sky's the limit, brother.
At least my version of it, which again is too wacky to explain in this situation, but there's a world where Moria could know about Old Wano, and knowing about Old Wano, at minimum, there's an entire bottom half of Mount Fuji that is habitable. Like, you could hide people in there. You could start a civilization in there. Moria could do a lot. And, again, the fact that Moria, to some degree, is basically solo mogging the greatest shipwright in the world at the moment by terraforming an island into a ship. And what we're dealing with at the bottom of Wano is ship stuff. Hey, Moria might be the kind of craziest candidate to either free Wano, make Wano move, or get Pluton moving. It'd be nuts. It'd be wild. And another crazy idea is like, there's still a faction of people, not Big Mom, but they're like, hey, Kaido's dead. And hey, if Kaido is dead, and if we're putting Moria there, give him the body.
Zombie Kaido, zombie Big Mom. Yeah.
Hey, yeah. He could put Moria could just hide, put his shadow in Kaido, and even then he might be insane. You know what I mean? Just that alone would be nuts. Bonkers.
Moria 2025. Here's a good question. If you had to like really put money on it, when do you think we'll see Moria next? Or when do you think we'll get mentioned of Moria even? When's the next Moria name drop? 5 chapters out, 10 chapters, 20 chapters, 30 chapters.
I think sooner. I feel like I remember comparing Yamato's cover story to Germa's in the sense of like now Germa's was so insane. We went from just Germa, from Whole Cake Island to theorizing about silhouettes and shoes, and then we got Mads, and we got Vegapunk backstory, and then we got Stussie's like sort of reveal coinciding and Pudding and Kuzan's reveal all inside the cover story. And as far as the comparison went, I was like, it would be like if Odo's keeping that up, then we're hitting that level this time, and it would be around now. And I could see Moria having, especially now we're in Ringo, right? Like Yamato's end stop was Ringo. It was to give the things to the shrine and then eventually return. The end of the pilgrimage is returning back home. But Ringo was the goal, and I wouldn't be surprised if Oda spends or keeps Yamato in the goal for longer, especially if there's a new dilemma. If Moria shows up, there's a lot to expand in Ringo, I feel like. Ryuma's here. We haven't seen that yet, which isn't necessary. We have that. We have the missing Tobi Roppo, right? We still have Black Maria and Sasaki.
And Jack.
So there's that. So I think there's more than enough ways to extend it. And if we're extending it and Moria got mentioned this heavily like this, and he's raised in Ringo, I almost feel like Moria showing up in the cover story makes more sense than him showing up in the story as far as which one comes first, right? Which one's more relevant to the story? I feel like obviously the story part, but I feel like cover story, 10 chapters, adding that, 10 chapters might end up being like 15 weeks maybe. So I feel like cover story.
Imagine you go to Moria's house, the house the hero grew up in.
I'm gonna be upset if we find out Moria has like a whole estate, like how Odin's castle is still there. Well, it got burned down.
What if it's like Who's estate, where it's like a giant Who's Who head? Imagine a giant Gecko Moria head, and then we just never saw it. That would be so stupid.
That like Minatomo's best friends with Moria. That's why Thriller Bark is so insane, and his ship is like, it's like Minatomo went there, built it for him. It's like, you're the true heir to the
imagine
throne.
We go to like a house in Ringo, and they have like a picture of Moria up there, kind of like how people in North Korea have a picture of Kim Jong-un. Like, imagine we get that for Moria, and everybody just loves him. They're like, yeah, we all have pictures of Moria.
Yeah, we find out that Moria was sitting daimyo for a time. We just missed that era. Like, Ushimaru was captured by Kaido, and during that time, Moria took over for a little bit.
Yeah. That'd be so funny, dude. Moria's like a very prominent figure we just never heard about.
Yeah, he was just forgotten.
Or at least
People just gave up.
He's just conveniently not mentioned to us.
Yeah. The real reason why. No, it wouldn't make sense. I was gonna say Ashura Doji gave up in the later on. It's because he was best friends with Moria, and so he felt slighted that Oda never helped him. He held on to that grudge. Like later on, after the boiling, he's like, "Well, he didn't show up for his cousin. How is he gonna show up for me 20 years from now?" It'd be nuts.
Yeah.
Oh, Ashura Doji didn't actually die. Oh no, that's the reason why Ashura Doji does die from simple bombs, is because he wanted to be controlled by his long-lost friend Moria, the true Kozuki heir to the throne.
Yeah, we see
Shogun.
We see Ashura Doji and Izo back as zombies. That'd be crazy.
Yeah. Izo's like, "This is why I stayed with the Whitebeard. I was waiting for you." Kishi. And Izo starts laughing like Moria.
They get Moria tattoos.
Yeah. Izo rips off the Whitebeard tattoo, and there's this Moria's tattoo there. We see like a Z. Oh, I forgot what the numbers were. Like a Z901. Like it's just a one above Ors, and that's Izo. Izo's the secret weapon.
The special zombie.
Yeah. Destroys Yasop in a gunfight, but he has to die first.
Now that it's been well over an hour of Moria talk, the longest we've ever stayed on a cover page story. It's time to get into the first page of the chapter. We are now in a certain stretch of the sea on the Oro Jackson. And we see that Roger's pouting. You know, we get the whole thing about Rayleigh going after Shaki, Shaki quitting. You know, Rayleigh doesn't want to get tied down. Roger does. It's a whole little love triangle they got going on here. Funny enough, the most important part that people have been talking about isn't any of this. It's the fact that the Roger Pirates now have an official cook. And it is Max Marks, which I didn't even notice at first. You know, I was so focused on Moria, I kind of forgot about this part. But yeah, we got a cook, which is cool, I think. Yeah.
I brought it up after. It's funny, in the reaction, I brought it up. I was like, wait, didn't Sai tell me there was no cooks? There's a cook. And I was like, oh, the cook probably leaves to work for Shaki's bar. Because, like, that's a poppin' place. And then later on in the chapter, she literally was like, if you can't afford the food, you work. And I was like, oh my God, the guy's a simp. Like, he just ends up working there because he couldn't afford the food. But yeah, I guess maybe that's what ends up happening.
Oh, no. So in the context of the SPS, Oda said that he's just listing the most important characters. So
so he could be on the ship?
Yeah, he could still be on the ship. He could always be on the ship. He could still end up on the ship and, you know, he lives and dies by the ship.
But did we see him? Because we get his face, right?
Yeah.
But do we see that guy on in Odin's flashback on Laughtail? Because we see a lot of the crew. Oh, we do?
Yeah, Max Marks is he's always been a member.
Maybe Oda just forgot the first time, because I think Oda thinks that the cooks are really important, right? Or is he saying that Roger doesn't need to eat? Maybe that's why.
But there's also like 30 Roger Pirate members, so I'm not shocked that Oda could have just forgotten. Like,
is that Sanji downscale?
I don't think so.
The cooking ain't that important?
I don't think so.
The Pirate King doesn't need a cook. That's not important.
Yeah, I mean, it could be seen as like a cook downplay, but I think it's just like Oda had way too many people. Like he listed off like I think 12 different members, and that's only half of Roger's crew. So it's like, yeah, people are saying the same thing about Sunbell because he's like the one fishman in the group and he got no role whatsoever.
Yeah, but
I think it's just something like that. Yeah. So what do you think about this whole beginning portion of the chapter with Shaki's ominous message towards Rayleigh?
Well, I'm looking at Viz. Viz's translation of the letter is just kind of funny. Because, like, TCB says Shaki's letter as come and make me yours. And then in the Viz, it's just come and get me. It's just
come and get me, you scumbag. Yeah, Viz,
like,
yeah.
Like, who wrote this letter? Stephen Paul? Like, what the? Shaki just had no riz.
It makes it sound like Shaki's like a serial killer. Like, that's just something the Zodiac Killer would leave to the police, right? Come and get me.
Like for whatever reason, TCB flipped, or Viz flipped the like, Shaki's written all like seductively, wrote like the little squiggles, you know, versus in TCB, it's just dash and then they use Comic Sans and it's like standard, but come and make me yours is way like that's
way more romantic than come and get me.
Yeah, Shaki, like we see Shaki's like not not rage baiting. She's just seductively talking, right? Throughout the entire chapter. She's like, ooh, like I'd love to show you my meat stew, but actually I'm not cooking it. Like, she's doing shit like that, and these guys are falling, but it's like, all right. And then some dude shows up with the meat stew, and she's still like, oh, get him the terrible rum instead. And they're still getting rizzed up just because the way she's wording it. And Biz just goes, come and get me. That's so funny. Now, see, if she wrote that, now I get why Rayleigh was just like, man, she wasn't even trying. Come on. I'm a guy who needs to get rizzed up too. You know, I could see him getting like, she didn't even put effort into this letter.
Just come and get me, huh? Like,
you know what's funny? The Rogers line right next to it is more hilarious with the Viz. He goes, it's clearly a love letter.
I was about to say that. It's like, is it clear, Roger? I don't know if it's clear, brother.
How else can it be interpreted? And it's like, I don't know, like a serial killer? Like,
yeah, this could be like a rescue mission. Like, oh my God, Shaki's in trouble. Come and get me. Like, if you hear that and then hear that she's at Hachinosu, I'd be like, holy crap, she needs our help, guys.
And even funnier, is it's not like it was mailed. Shaki handed this letter to Rayleigh. Last time they saw each other, it was handed to him. Come and get me. And Roger ends up getting it. And it's like, this is a love letter. Like, it's so funny. You're not tempted by this at all? It's like, damn, are you? Like, oh God.
It's definitely something.
Yeah, and then the thing is, like, Roger, I feel like afterwards it's a little funny because he's like, I'm not admitting defeat yet. Pillage it, Vince Trill. in TCB they wrote plundering, which kind of means like stealing your booty. Pillaging is a level. There's a connotation to pillaging.
We gotta pillage the fuck out of Shaki, guys.
That's crazy.
Roger's crazy, man. That's so funny.
Pillaging is a pirate's true calling. Is this who Luffy's taking after, guys? I'm sorry.
Hey, we've never seen Luffy in love. You know, the minute Luffy falls in love, maybe he'll be the exact same way.
I remember. Oh, yeah. Garb forgot to mention the part that I respected most about Roger was when he just pillaged the fuck out of these things.
Yeah,
oh God.
You know, we do have a torturer amongst the Roger pirates. Imagine we go down there's just a bunch of women.
Yo, like I saw some people commented it, and I think they went to like it's excessive, especially with the TCB translation. It's like, this is Roger downscale. He's clearly belongs in jail, and it's like
that's
like,
pretty funny.
Like I saw the memes, right, and I understood the perspective. Yeah. They are pirates. This is what the pirates did. It's a shocker, you know. The 1500s weren't really wholesome, you know. If we put the 1500s in the 2025 perspective, everyone would be in prison. The king, the mailman, everyone would be in prison. The school teacher, none of them would be safe by our standards. Okay, so there's that. But the Viz translation is actually kind of criminal. Like, this looks like something that someone edited. Pillaging is a pirate's true calling. If you want something, you take it. Ain't that right, boys? And then all you have to do is put a picture of like Roger having Shaki over his shoulder, walking away. Like, that's all he'd need to do, right?
Come on,
or
boys.
Just, he has the Navy people by the throat, and you just like inserted a cage of women in the back. Like, that shit would be canon at that point. I don't know what the fuck Roger was doing, but that's the other thing. What was Roger doing before this?
I don't know.
And maybe this is why Whitebeard doesn't like him, because I did like that part of the chapter where Roger and Whitebeard, or Roger likes Whitebeard a lot, which is later, but like, I was surprised by that because I thought that was like a post God Valley thing that they ended up knowing each other. But it seems like Roger's like, yo, Whitebeard, let's fucking drink. And I'm like, that's kind of sick. I want to know what happened. Like, who were they before this, you know?
Yeah, how'd they start?
Yeah.
So we now cut over 40 years in the past, slightly earlier in time, and we see that Garling has approached the Gorosei. And he said that he found something quite peculiar. I can never say that word right. He found something very interesting over at God Valley. What is it? What did he find?
But one of the first things that I was like, how does he know that the Great One will be quite pleased with this? Like, what could possibly have been there? Was it a devil fruit? Was it whatever? The only thing that we've seen Imu actually want was Vivi. And like, extension would be like Lily, right? Like, it was like Nefertari related things. And so at this point, I was like, did he just find like Lily? Like, did he find someone that looks like Lily? And then, you know, later on in Gyro, we see not the face shown of the person. I'm like, is it really just that? But even that doesn't make sense because like he just happened to moor his ship there, and Shanks and Shamrock are born. Like, what did he do? He landed his ship there and he just like banged a like, is that lady the one who looks like Lily? And Garland's like, dibs, but you could get seconds. Like, what does that mean? Like,
yeah. One of my first thoughts was Uranus, and then I went to the woman. I just don't know. Like, I think Uranus makes the most sense Because the way I rationale it is that whatever Garling found, he can't just bring it back simply. Because if he could have, he would have. Right? If it was just like a person or, some item, he would just bring it back and then the Great One would be pleased today rather than in 2 years. So whatever it is, I think it's somewhat stationary. And I say somewhat because it could just be big, like so big they can't move it right away. Like maybe they need additional like help to do it. I saw a theory that I really liked. Somebody said that maybe Garling found a dragon there. That's kind of cool. Because, celestial dragons, outside of women, celestial dragons do like Western dragons. So it's like maybe Garling found one on that island.
But even
like,
then,
that's a pretty cool theory.
What you said earlier applies heavily, which if Emu would be pleased by it, why would you need to wait 2 years to then take it? And, are we talking about children? Are we talking about kids? Like, is it like, oh, we need to wait for them to be born and grow? Like, no, but that's not, because then why would then you eliminate everybody there and kill everybody as a result? Oh, I found a great thing. It's the people. We can make holy knights out of them. Each child here has the potential for holy. Let's kill them all. Like, that doesn't make sense. It would make more sense to turn them into Promised Neverland, farm them, right? Like do that shit. But that didn't happen, obviously. And even with the Shanks Shamrock context, is that like, why not just take them? Why did they stay there? Why were they wheeled around in the straw? Why not just pick them up, take them?
Yeah.
Impregnate all of them, take the babies, bring them back. Like, you don't need to wait. You don't need to farm them. You don't need to kill all their family and do that while they're toddler or infants and and then lose them to Roger. Like, none of that made sense. So it's like, it doesn't even feel like Shanks and Shamrock are desired in that way. We don't even, like, Garling has blonde hair. The lady has the red hair. So I don't even know. Obviously, Shanks was they're spitting images of Garling, but like, even to that extent, we're like, well, how important it is, because you got to imagine if Garling is as strong as we think he is, and Roger has Shanks, and he's brazenly bringing Shanks around. Like, Shaki saw him, Whitebeard saw him. It's not a secret that Shanks is there. At some point, you think you would just kill Roger, take your child back, if it's your child. So it's like, the children is a weird one. If it's a dragon, why not just take the dragon? Why not just take the dragon, make it, unless there's something specific about the island. But then if it's the island,
massive.
Yeah, and then the island disappearing is the part where I'm like, is it the island itself? But then I'm like, so then I'm like, okay, maybe they want the island, but they can't take the inhabitants. And something that I ran through my brain is like, oh, the Abyss Mark. They can't take people through the Abyss Mark, but they can take objects. Sommer's couch and his living room showed up. So you can't bring people, but you can bring the thing. So maybe they needed to slaughter everybody to then Abyss Mark it and teleport it back. And I'm like, but if it's that desirable, like, why would you wait still? You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to wait for the thing. And it's like, oh, maybe he just wanted to have the games there and like make a whole, he didn't want to say, like, you can't convince me that Shamrocks couldn't just show up solo dolo the entire island and then just teleport it back. If it was something that Emu would be pleased by, why would it be like, oh, let's wait 2 years for an event that Emu isn't even a part of? And then once we slaughter them, after Ivankov said it would be like 3 weeks and they would all be dead. So let's have a game 3 weeks later, they're all dead, and then we teleport the island back. And I'm like, but then it's like, if it's that much of a priority, why wait? So like, the timeline is so wonky, which is why the whole thing, therefore, I strongly recommend God Value for our next competition in 2 years' time. It's like, huh? Why not? If it's something Emu wants, why not? Like, Emu wanted the Mother Flame, and it's like, okay, let Vegabond cook, and then as soon as he starts affecting, guys, go there. All the Gores say, go now, take it. Vegapunk, Gores, Mother Flame, Punk Records, all of it now. Blow up Lucia now. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of, imagine going to your king or queen or overlord and be like, I found something you really want, but in 2 years. Wait 2 years, Emu. And it's like, damn, bro, just give it to me now, right? Like, it's weird. It's a little weird. I'm not saying it's like, terrible. It's not inexplainable, but it's hard to figure out what's there, what Shamrock's found, what was so a discovery he never expected to make. And it's like, how did he make that discovery? You know what I mean? But I will say that 2 years time frame, that explains why Shamrocks was so good at God Valley. Because the reality is like there's probably other contemporaries that were at his level back then. But Shamrocks had they literally were like, oh, we got to give him he's handicapped. And he's like, it's fine. But it's like, he knows the island. He knows the king. He knows everything about this island, basically. So it's not fair. It's like, he was the champion of God Valley. It's like, well, no shit. You knew this place. You mapped it out. You got a head start. And so then to even the playing field is like, all right, I'll start off negative 10,000 points. All right, is that enough of a handicap? So that I was like, damn, that's a little funny. He had a 2-year heads up. He goes there. He's like, all right, it's not fair. I had a 2 years head start. Let me kill the king. Let me get deducted 10,000 points. And now I'll still be champion, So, yeah, there's a bunch of... This single page has a huge amount of things to dissect. Huge amount.
Yeah, when it comes to like whatever Emu would want, maybe it's not anything like that Emu needs necessarily. Maybe it's just like, it's just something for fun. And that's why they're willing to wait 2 years.
The picture. You found the picture.
He found a picture of Lily.
They're the one that he's been staring at.
Yeah, or it's like the bottom half of the picture to complete it.
Yeah. Someone said was like, I can't get behind the Emu Gunner theories, which predated Gunner Valley and Gunner Roger Pirates. But now that we added Gunner Valley and Gunner Pirate Island and Gunner Roger Pirates, Emu being a Gunner isn't like, it's not as
absurd.
insane. But then they were like, he's probably best friends with Lily. I'm like, I'm sorry. Me and Sai, great friends. I'm never having a full bust-sized floor to ceiling picture of Sai mounted on my wall. And I bet your ass if I did and Sai showed up, he'd be like, take that shit down right now.
Yeah.
Like, that's some creepy ass shit.
Yeah,
So,
Yeah, I think there's a high chance that Joy Boy and Emu were Gooners, 100%.
Yeah,
there's gonna be some sort of love story back in the day.
Yeah, and then I find out that Sai has a kid. It looks exactly like Sai, and then they're in my home, and I'm like, I want them. That's not normal connotations. That's not like, oh, they were just cool friends. Like, no, arrest that person who's saying that shit. Like, that's some freaky ass Lifetime movie type shit.
It's funny you mentioned that. Speaking of kids and romance, the next part of the chapter is Rocks D Xebec, and he is no longer in love with Shaki. He instead has found a woman and has a Blackbeard now. He's with child, as some would say. A little bit sad that we don't get to see the mom. Do you think we ever will?
No, but I am gonna do it's an ancient giant. Yeah, it completes. It's like it's Estrid's sister or some shit. Like it. I want it. I think it's an ancient giant. I feel like that's where we're at. I don't know.
Is there a reason
that
why?
Makes a lot of sense. I just feel like there's a few things like Blackbeard, interesting body, the lineage, but then there's also the Buccaneer Giants, hybrid is the special mixture, and then Scopper going out of his way, going to Elbaph to, have Colin, and he's not a Buccaneer, but he's a hybrid, and it's like, maybe he was like, oh, that's what Rocks did, you know what I mean? I'm gonna see if I could, do something like that, So this is something about this, and given the fact that Rocks spent a lot of time on Elbaph, a lot of solo trips there. If there was a place for him to gain familiarity, and the other thing is too, is that Rocks hid this from his crew. Not in the sense of like they are not aware of it, right? Big Mom is like, see, a woman's intuitions can be scary. She's saying that about Shaki. they all know. Rocks is saying it's supposed to be a secret from everyone. And then Stussy adds, it's not just a woman. He's probably has a kid on the way, that was funny too, because like I was like, yo, he's probably, and then I was like, oh wait, no, they're definitely talking about Blackbeard because it's 40 years now. That's when Blackbeard's born. We just didn't know if it was already born or on the way, all that stuff. But they don't seem to know who the woman is. They like put it together. Rocks told them, but they're not like familiar with it to the point where Stussy wouldn't be theorizing about a baby if they knew who the lady was and saw that she was pregnant, whatever. And then also it would have to be that way because ain't no way Whitebeard would know about the lady and who comes out of it and then adopts Blackbeard without knowing that that's Rocks' kid. It'd have to be separated like that. And the one place that we know for a fact that Rocks does do solo trips to is Elbaph. He's done many solo trips, which ended this chapter. So if there was a place, Elbaph is a good place. And
so
Rocks,
do you truly like fully believe this?
I like it's one of those theories where, you know,
because I think it's a fun theory. I don't believe it though.
There's like it's one of those theories where it's like the base, there's not like much to base it off of. Like it could be anyone. It could not even matter. You know what I mean? Oda's with Saturn and the thing, they made us with a huge like, oh, he's special lineage. It could be a multitude of different things, right? Based on what Oda said. But it's one of those things, it's like instinct. I'm like, feel like there's ancient giant here, especially with how much Rocks knows about like the world, which we still don't have context for. I'm sure he knows the same thing that what like Gunko and Emu were saying, like the giants are super important to shape the world and you need them on their side, right? Which is also probably a huge thing about, you know, one, Rocks knew about where Elbaph was without ever being on Elbaph, so he already was pretty aware of it. He also knew, like, wait, who are you, Harald? Like, you know, context of that. Then he made it a priority to go there, became friends with them, and that's what makes this chapter even more. It's not, you know, they were friends, genuinely, I believe that, but there's probably another level to the frustration of losing Harald that way, because then Kaido's whole line of like, let's just take it by force, right? That has another layer to it, because now if they're not friends, what Kaido said is an option. You know what I mean? Like there's that thing. But, you know, Rocks had an interesting level of understanding of the world that maybe, you know, naturally, like, you know, fate had it that he fell in love with someone on Elbaph and ended up being, you know, and you know, I had the other meme theory that I was like, yo, it's just Ida. He just banged Ida. Harald would never have known anyways, because he never spends, it seems like all the time he spends with Ida is when Rocks is there. And it's like, it's not like he cares or she cares or Harald cares. Harald's always gone. Loki doesn't even see him. So it's like, you know, by the end of it, even Loki's like, yo, Rocks is my dad, you know, and Ida's like, he's not coming back, honey, you know. So who knows? But if I were to say Oda threw in another ancient giant on our way, I feel like it's not that crazy. We got Estrid. Give her a sister. Or a cousin. We did that with Moria.
I'm not a big believer of the theory, but I think it's fun. It's a fun thought to play with. I think it's just going to be a regular woman. That's kind of what I lean towards. I feel like if we had to explain Blackbeard's special lineage, you know, I should throw a poll up on this one, like whether they were just talking about Rocks or if they meant like Blackbeard's actually from a special tribe, because I do lean towards special tribe. Yeah. As far as like the tribe, though, I think it's more like humanoid. I think they'll just have like one or two things different, and that could even be the case with Rocks already. Like maybe he's already special, and then you know that could explain like the mom's just a regular person. Yeah, but either way, oh yeah, go for it.
Route. No, I was just gonna say the other route would just be, this would be a great entry point for Three Eye Tribe, but which you mentioned before when talking about pudding, but like it's still hard to say, because if it's the case, then I'd like for Oda to actually show the Three Eye Tribe. Like if it's Three Eye Tribe, if it's Ancient Giant, we could stall on that. We don't need that information to come from that direction, because that information will come anyways later on. But the Three Eye Tribe one is one of those things where it's like, currently we don't have unless Oda just takes us to a place where the three-eyed tribes are prevalent or have some kind of history, we wouldn't have like an entry point unless it came from Blackbeard, which if it came from Blackbeard, then his mom having three-eyed tribe stuff would make a lot of sense, and it would tie into how he knows or what he could do with pudding, right? Because that's literally what Big Mom said. I don't know if we'll ever awaken that, right? But if Blackbeard has that information and it comes from his mom, that would be huge. And I would think that'd be a really great entry point for that place. And we wouldn't need an entire island or a place where they were wiped out and we start getting information from the last remnant. We don't have to do the last buccaneer, the last three-eyed tribe. And then we have 5 others like pudding and whatever, right? We wouldn't have to do shit like that. But hey, like Big Mom clearly had to have found the three-eyed tribe to have pudding. And pudding is younger than God Valley. And so if Rocks found the three-eyed tribe, and that's where Big Mom's clearly like intuitive on this, maybe that's the entry point. Maybe Rocks, Big Mom, she followed the smell and ended up finding where the three-eyed tribe, and even telling Big Mom the power of the three-eyed tribe, because Big Mom is aware of it. By the time we get pudding in the story, she's like, yeah, there's a secret power that makes me, like Roger could just hear it, but I don't need that because I have pudding. And that tells you the pre-meditation of having pudding. Pudding's like the only child that was probably planned post-Katakuri, you know what I mean? Like, hey, I need a three-eyed tribe to read the poneglyphs, so I'm going to steal a three-eyed tribe. Where do I get them from? Well, I don't know where they're from. Hey, but maybe Rocks does. And, if I backtrack where Rocks had been, maybe I'll find them. So I could see that one, but we'll have to see. Maybe it turns out that God Valley had the three-eyed tribe. Who knows?
Yeah, so the next thing we see in the chapter is that Roger does show up here, and he has a little, I wouldn't call it a clash, but he butts heads with Rocks over Shaki and just being here in general. And we learn that here at Hachinosu, if you're visiting Shaki's bar, it's essentially a neutral ground for pirates. No matter how fierce you are, you respect the rules, which I think is pretty cool. You know, Shaki's essentially the peacekeeper here. We also see that Gloriosa tried and is trying to join Roger's crew, but Roger keeps on turning her down because she's just so damn clingy, which I'm glad that gets explained. What's up?
In the Viz changes it.
Does it? What does it say?
The Viz goes, I keep telling you no. I don't need a woman who throws hearts all over the place causing chaos. Which that's different than TCB. TCB goes, I told you no, I'm not into lovey-dovey women who throw themselves at me. That's the specific, like I don't want someone who's clingy to me, but Viz changes it as if Gloriosa's throwing hearts all over, who would be an example of that in our current story? Because you wouldn't describe Boa like that. Boa's only like that with Luffy. Gloriosa only like that with Roger. It's not like Gloriosa's falling over for Rayleigh or anybody else. It's not causing a ruckus. It's only with you, which TCV made that make sense, right? Like the clinginess is there. In the Viz, it's going like, oh, you're for the streets, basically. Like that's kind of what that's like. It's a little interesting. And then it's even weirder because then Gloriosa goes, but Shaki would be an exception. Oh, no, Roger goes, but Shaki would be an exception, of course. Which Shaki's not like that either. So, like, yeah, that's a little interesting.
Yeah,
it is what it is.
Hopefully
people
difference.
Understand it. Yeah,
I think people will. But yeah, Shaki gets heartbroken because Rayleigh's not here. Rayleigh instead is on the ship singing Bink Sake with the egg and the rest of Roger's crew. Bink Sake making a comeback in 2025. We knew it was going to happen. Bink Sake is going to be really important. That lame song. And it's pretty good stuff, man. Also, one thing we do want to make note of is the fact that Whitebeard does leave around this time. And, people pointed this out, but it is a nice little callback to what Marco said about how Whitebeard is a cheapskate who never pays for his own drinks because he's saving up money for his town. And when Whitebeard leaves, he says, hey, put my drinks on Rox's tab, which is kind of funny.
Yeah.
Nice little callback.
No, it's funny. We did that anime see. It's just like, oh, put on Cole's tab. And then Cole's like, no, put it on Par's tab. And I'm like, hey, what's going on here? But it's just funny. I'm just gonna straight out say it, Oda's my biggest fan. He loves that I love Rayleigh. I've always backed Rayleigh, even when it was doubtful and people in the comments like, Par, you can't see Scopper correctly because you're just such a big Rayleigh laser. And I'm like, that's crazy because I'm a Scopper. I was like, I never was disrespectful to Scopper. I was just saying that Rayleigh has more screen time. There's an obvious focus on them. But then Oda was just like, I got you, Par. The number one girl in the verse, without a doubt, canonically, went for Rayleigh. Rayleigh is just straight mogging everybody. And the only demerit is Rayleigh's hella disrespectful, man. He's out here, he's dodging Shaki because and she's literally is ill. She's sick, she's dying. He's literally killing her. And it's not that he doesn't like or want and end up like, this is the thing. He just doesn't want to get tied down. And then you see he's not even sleeping. I get it. I'm a busy guy. I end up sleeping. It's like my wife's trying to wake me up, and I'm like, bro, I sleep like a rock. No, Rayleigh's out here sinking Binks Brew. What the hell is this guy doing? Go inside, go talk to Shaki. And then it dawned on me that this isn't even the worst part. Because like I'm the biggest Rayleigh supporter, but then it comes to this, I'm like, I can't support him because it's not just that. It's that we know that Shaki ends up at God Valley. We don't know to what capacity, but that line of like our Shaki space is neutral ground. So that kind of tells you like it could easily be the Holy Knight just walks up. No one would fight him. And then by the time he gets Shaki, it's too late. He's already gone. It just abysses out or something, It could be that easy because of that line right there. So that's like one thing. But then the second thing is we know that she's there at God Valley. And to some capacity, Rayleigh probably saves her ass. And she's like, ooh. And she's might be dying by that point because she's passing out already. This is 2 years prior to God Valley. So 2 years without Rayleigh and Rayleigh decline. It might be that seeing Rayleigh actually just saves her at God Valley. But then, 15 years go by? 13 years? Until Roger's the king of the pirates? And Rayleigh's on Roger's ship with no Shaki. That means that he was like blue balling Shaki with like a death. She's dying.
He doesn't want to get tied down, bro.
And then I thought about it. I was like, you know what? You know how Shaki aged up a little bit? Like she's 90 basically right now. She still looks pretty good. And I've always been on that boat, even with the post-time or pre-time skip art. I was like, yeah, she's still Shaki. And then we find out Empress, we find all this stuff. It's like, it's still the same. But then I'm thinking about it. Damn, if Rayleigh stayed with Shaki through and through, she might have stayed looking the way she is now as a current 90-year-old. And the only age up part she got is probably the part where she was separated from Rayleigh. Rayleigh could have saved us. Could have had prime Shaki the entire story. Because we saw what happened in Gloriosa. We saw what happened with Bakens. Shaki was probably on that path, but but
Rayleigh stopped it halfway. One thing I really did enjoy about the ending of this whole segment here is the Rocks and Roger panel, where they're like, yeah, at sea, it's not a neutral zone anymore. And then you got them essentially mean mugging, aura farming. I think this is the best the Rogers looked. I will admit, this chapter made Roger look really cool. Beforehand, I've always been pretty neutral on Roger. I'd say this is probably the first chapter where my initial reaction is that I leave with a positive perception, I guess, is a good way to put it. Because, when he sees Shaki pouting, he's like, stupid Rayleigh, why didn't he come? So he's kind of pushing his own, lust and looming over Shaki aside and saying, she'd be happier if Rayleigh was here. Like, oh, it's cool, dude. Yeah, W Roger.
Yeah. Earlier we were saying the whole, the Viz translation's wild for what they said, but, there seems like a behind the scene agenda, with Rocks, not Rocks, or Roger. He's still chasing after something. Oda's just hiding it kind of well. And I've said this before. where technically we know nothing about Roger because what we got was a Odin flashback. What we got was Rayleigh pre-time skip sort of telling us the execution context. And then we got the Odin stuff that gave us 5 years prior to that. And even that still doesn't give you context about how he knew certain things, what he found at Lodestar, anything in that light. There's a few other things related to God Valley, the year before God Valley when he lands there, the Lodestar thing, but then also the stories about not to go to the last island. Like, where did he hear that from? Is that from Rocks? But then also here, he's clearly likes Whitebeard. And it is interesting because he goes, hey, is Newgate around? I want to have a drink with him. And it just reminds me of when he said after finding the One Piece to Odin, he was like, before I die, I'm gonna go see Whitebeard. I'm gonna go drink with Whitebeard. And then in the time he smoothed over the conversation a little bit by saying, like, do you want me to tell him to send Izo back to Wano? And Odin's like, it's fine. He's happy there, whatever. But like, Whitebeard was a huge catalyst for Roger in the sense of getting Odin in the first place. But then also after the One Piece, that was the one person that Roger mainly wanted to see. He disbanded his crew, didn't see any of them. He didn't see Rayleigh, he didn't see Scopper apparently, he didn't see anybody after that in between that year. He saw Garp, from what we know, and he saw Whitebeard. And he went out of his way for Whitebeard. Garp was just showed up at whatever Impel Down or whatever holding Roger was in, but he straight up went to an unknown, undisclosed place that most likely wasn't where Ace was, or like ended up being born. And he met up with Whitebeard and told him about the Will of D, and it was like, hey, do you want to know about the Void Century and what's that one Laughdale? And Whitebeard's like, no. And so when I see this, I'm like, maybe there was something else Roger wanted to talk to him about. Like the drink was just because he knows Whitebeard likes to drink or whatever. So maybe there was something. And even that face that he has with the Rocks here, it's not over Shaki. It's not like, you know what I mean? It's not technically like there. It feels like there's another connotation. I mean, even in this instant, Rocks doesn't care about Shaki. He has a whole other priority. So it's like their tension, whatever, is there's something else going on, and I imagine God Valley is going to give us a lot of things. Even the last words we got from God Valley was, wait, Rocks, and then get out of my way, Roger. And it was just them seemingly chasing after something, doing something, and it's probably not Shaki there, right? But I did get whiplash when I was reading this, because the title of the thing is Rocks versus Harald, right? And then I see Roger versus Rocks, and I'm like, oh, we're going to see them clash at the sea. And I scroll down, and my Kubari thing was like zoomed in. So I just saw Harald. I was like, did I skip? Did I skip a page? Did the page get out of order? And I waited for chat to tell me. I was like, no, this is the right order. Then I zoomed out and I saw that we jumped to Elbaph. And I was like, huh? What is happening? And so I got blindsided about what happened next. But I fully expected a Roger Rocks clash to give us like a context of like their strength, where they were. Because the other thing is, like, Oda told us, like, oh, and Sengoku was like, oh, the Rocks was Roger's first rival. And then I thought about it, and it was prior to the Rocks kid part here, which, we knew about with Blackbeard thing. But I was like, damn, what if Oda actually meant like Rocks is Roger's first love rival? Like, they were the two strongest people vying for Shaki, and they were like, they weren't rivals in the sense, because there's no One Piece right now. There's no Pirate King right now in that regard, because wasn't invented until after Roger found all this stuff. So like, what were they rivals over? And I always brought up the point that at this time, one of the greatest pirates is Whitebeard, and Whitebeard doesn't give a shit about any of that stuff. He just wants to have a family. So you wouldn't say that Roger and Whitebeard are rivals, because they're not rivaling each other for the same thing. Whereas, do we know what Rocks was after? Do we know what Roger's after? No, not really, not at this point. So, but the one thing that they were technically after at the same point would be Shaki, and then it would make sense. Oda's like vagueness over that was that everyone was a rival technically. It's just that Roger and Rocks are like the strongest. So, but then we got the Elbaph transition, which is a crazy thing in and of itself. That part of the
Yeah,
chapter.
so we go over to Elbaph and we see that Harald did indeed accept the world government's proposal. We kind of talked about this last week about how there's a good chance Harald would do this just because he really wants Elbaph to be an allied nation. And it's tough, man. You know,
Silly.
it's sad seeing two friends fight like this, but you know, Harald kind of has his hands tied, and you know, I've seen a lot of people bashing Harald. I think it's fair,
Yeah.
but I mean, for me at least, like I can't blame Harald for wanting to try this route. Like he even acknowledges that the Celestial Dragons are kind of nasty people, but he's like, dude, the good it would do for my people though. The fact that it could probably break the narrative around how nasty the giants are, like that's worth it. But then Rocks is like, yo, like Harald, they're not gonna break that narrative. They're gonna reinforce it because, you know, they're just gonna use you as weapons anyways. So it's like a back and forth, and it's like, yeah, it's tough, bro.
I think for me, like, yeah, I'm full on the Herald bashing thing, but like for me, the context, especially after last chapter, is that this is Herald in the bad timeline, and it's like very evident, like there to a point where last chapter was a whole inflection point in Herald's decision making, where Rock seeks Ida's help in like, hey, say something to him, set him on a different course. You could do that. And the reality is, Ida's the reason why Herald changed a new leaf 40 years ago and recognized and saw everything, because Ida was the one who like opened his eyes to the reality of whatever privileges he has as a giant, and he's abusing it, and he's not seeing, he's too busy crushing everyone who's weak, and his metric of value is his strength and all that. And then afterwards he starts recognizing, no, their value is, you know, they are innovative when it comes to farming and clothes and textiles and whatever. And so, you know, it's funny because earlier on, he would have respected and put a lot more weight on Ida's perspective. And even Ida recognized, like when Rock said that, Ida, you could almost say that Ida gave up on trying to set Harold straight, because she didn't even address her advice to him. She goes, hypothetically, if you were my kid, I would say choose your friends better. That's how separated it was. Like Rock, they're all in the same room, and Rox is like, yo, say something to him. And she's like, I can't. Which past Ida literally would have been like, yo, you're a bum ass. You are born big and strong. You're abusing your shit. You're useless. Go help out these like smaller people with your help, and they'll help you. And that's exactly what happened. And so the inflection point is like Harold's like lost the sauce a lot. And the elder Yarul also gave him valuable insights. Like, yo, the stress and failure you're seeing is not on you, and you need to stop beating yourself up, because you have to recognize the world government has an agenda that you are not recognizing, which is that they are definitely racist. You can put in that this is a myth or whatever. No, but this is true. I have the letters, whatever. And there's this very dark history that we don't know about, but there is a gap in our giant lore, ancient giants, and the shipwrights that are tied to the world government. So you have to be aware that he's ignored that. And that's where I'm like, after last chapter, if this situation happened before last chapter, I would say Harold is in more of a like justifiable stance of choosing one side over the other, because Rox is like, yeah, like the world government's propaganda of like painting him out this certain way, where it's like post him taking down the organization, the Foot Colony or whatever, that were like basically openly embezzling the world, because they were like, damn, they're onto our schemes. How did they figure we're evil? Like the guy literally said that to the Rocks Pirates. And it's like they were supposed to give money to the poor or whatever. And it's like a lot of like what like Luffy goes through. It's like, yeah, on the surface, people are like, oh my God, he's an 8-foot tall demon monkey who's destroying everything. But when you're the nation that he's saving, it's very understandable why he's saving them. And so Rocks came to a lot of that. And Harold not seeing that, despite having the first person, because everybody else that Luffy had that with was people that Luffy never experienced. Like Luffy never got to show them who he is, and they created a predisposition to what Luffy is without ever meeting him. But Rocks is seeing Harold, like, I don't even know, monthly, yearly, multiple times. Loki loves him, his son loves him, and Harold had the first person and never really saw past the headlines. And he was like, oh, the allied nations would hate it if I went with a villain. And the reason I say last chapter was so different is because Harold saw front and center that everything that he was like, oh, like the villain that you are painted in the headlines, like Harold's never seen that firsthand, and he's believing in the headlines and whatever. It's funny because the headlines never said that Rocks, besides the Admiral, said that he killed anybody, which is like wild. I'm like, damn, they listed out all these things, but they never said like, oh, he's killed hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people. He never said that, which is wild. But then he sees and he's confronting the world government actually about to enslave his allied nation. And after that, to still believe in them while giving them, before even being a part of the world government, he's already giving them military assets by John the Giant and the rest of the giants, which is proving Rox's point, is that he's getting milked and lied to, and he's choosing to not even believe what's in front of him. Rox is telling him everything that would happen, and it happened to him last chapter, where they are straight up lying to you, they're using you, and they're the evil ones, to the point that all the things that Harold was scared that Rocks would be doing, he saw the world government doing to his own allies, which Rocks never did. Rocks never actually threatened any of his allies. It was all just words, right? Like, and none of the headlines, at least from what we know, was Harold's allied nation being destroyed by Rocks. If that was the case, Harold would be like, yo, why did you mess up my place? My friends. That never happened. But the world government did. The world government actually did. And the world government actually was racist towards him, according to his elder, and a multitude of different things. So that's like, after that, to still choose this path, it's like wonky. But for me, I'm like, yeah, at this point, he's just not seeing straight. His own like person that set him on this path of righteousness can't get through to him, to the point where he thinks that going bald is going to fix things for some reason. And it's like, even Garp, who's a part of it, is like, what the hell is this guy doing, right? And there's so many different things to the decision making here, but it's also something that, like, a pattern that Oda has given, which is like Oimon Kashi, believing that Dorian Brogy were imprisoned and be set free for 50 years. It's like, it's not a gullibility almost. In their case, it's like gullibility, but in Harold, it's like desperation. And that's like where it is right now. The guy is clearly desperate. He's not choosing correctly. Last chapter, that was literally what was said. He's not choosing his friends wisely. So this is the path. And this is the path that we kind of had to see, because Loki, now seeing this Harold, Loki witnessed this. And Loki completely disagrees. And I think Loki's right. And that's why the start of this flashback is Loki calling his dad a world government dog, which is a heavy term. And it didn't really make sense until this point, where he threw out his best friend, or closest friend, one of them, from what we know, and Loki's idol, and forsakes all that for the good of the thing. And the one thing that I will say, and I came to it after, a while after, was that it is weird to me, right, that like, well, one, Mother Caramel doesn't get like fully mentioned here, but like, if there was a coordination between Mother Caramel and Harold also ignored Mother Caramel, didn't realize she was trafficking children, that's one thing. I mean, he didn't even notice Loki's abuse. But aside from that, it's weird to me, because I'd almost forgive this moment if Oda could still do this after this thing. If we see Harold saying to himself, or Yaru or Ida, he goes, I realize like my actions when I was younger destroyed the reputation. That's one thing. But the main thing that he'd be troubled by is the Harley text, or the mural, where you see in the mural, all the races are working together. And he realizes he was the biggest detractor from that. Like he would have destroyed that image, and he's working to restore that thing, and he's desperate to do so. I could almost recognize that, but it's also weird that, like, you know, the culture of Elbaph right now that we got is everybody knows Nika, reveres Nika, has some semblance of understanding what laughing god, destruction god, whatever it is. And Harold's never mentioned Nika ever. Never mentioned the Harley text, never mentioned any of that, despite, you know, the history of ancient giants, the ancient history. He's never brought that up. And I'd almost argue that if he had brought his actions in context with that, it could make sense. Like, oh, I'm trying to, because that's the same thing Odin went through. Why is Odin doing this dance for 5 years? It's because his logic is the prophecy is 20 years from now. Either I beat Kaido because I can't withstand this and they lied to me, which is what Harold's going through right now, or I take a stand right now and then hopefully someone 20 years down the line is able to open it, right? That's what Odin ended up doing. There was the prophecy, there was the reality, and then there was a certain point where he bet on the prophecy more than the reality. But Harold isn't having the prophecy part. He's just having the bet on the weird thing, which is, I would almost argue this decision is kind of like Odin dancing for 5 years. It's like, damn, it's kind of wild. It's not the same thing. Obviously, Odin's dancing is way more silly, and, you know, we can see how Harold's making an effort to do what he wants to do, but the results speak for themselves, right? Like, at the end of the day, he moves from this point, moves from God Valley. It goes 38 years in the future, and they haven't moved any step closer towards the world government than they had when Harold's alive and actively trying. So it is what it is. But this, you know, I understand why people are bagging on Harold. There's a lot of weird things with Harold, I'll say that. But it had to happen, I guess, for Loki to be the character he is now.
I will say, this chapter made me really like Harold. To make the decision to, like, betray your friend for something that's not guaranteed and something that never pans out, it's like, man, that's tough, dude. And, you know, when it comes to the fight, I really like the fight too, you know. Of course, it's just a lot of clashing, but we did see what they're capable of, right? Harold over here pushing Rocks having, like, the little Kizaru pose with his hand on his head, like, yeah, stop it, you idiot, you rat. And then we see him use, like, a Zoro, you know, 3,600-pound Phoenix cannon, like this air shockwave attack on Harold. Yeah. It's a lot of cool stuff, man. And it's tough because, like, you know, at this point in time, you know, with hindsight, we know that Harold was wrong, 100% wrong. But I just can't blame Harold for wanting to believe in, you know, the positives outweighing the negatives, despite there being evidence that the negatives would, you know, always persist.
I could agree with that if it was before last chapter. Like, last chapter, he literally saw that his allies are about to get. Well, we don't even know the result of that. We don't know if Harold saved them, right? Like it could be that just afterwards the world government just enslaved all of them. We don't know. It could be that island was the God Valley spot that just happened. That whatever. So that's my main thing. It's like, yeah, betting on, you know, something, the greater good over your friendship, sure, maybe. Last chapter, nah, that's wild. That's like, there's a certain level of delusion that brings you to, because it's like, not only did your friend tell you that was their truth, and it's not that truth is being hidden from you. No, you saw the truth happen to your own people. Those are the people Harold's fighting for. Harold's fighting for that island. The people, the reason why he can't have an open relationship with Rocks is for that island. And he saw that the world government was going to enslave them simply because they do not consider them humans. They don't consider them humans because they're not part of the world government. And Harold's like, it's not a crime to exist. And they were like, yeah, it is. You're not in the world government, so it's criminal. And that is exactly the antithesis to everything Harold's been fighting for, is literally that. That's what Ida was saying. It's not a problem for them to be weak. So you can't just run around killing them and flexing your strength. So the fact that last chapter showed to his face, he personally had to deal with it. He personally had to reckon with it, that the world government was the like the Herald that he was, but worse, because they were enslaving him. That's where it's like, no, like that's why the decision's super silly. Because, you know, it's one thing if Harold never saw that side. It's one thing if he was willingly oblivious. But it's like the evils were being done to you. Is being done to your own people. Maybe it's because they weren't giants, he didn't care as much. Maybe that's the folly of that, right? It's like, if this happened to Elbaph, I would care. But if these are just humans, I don't need to care if they're enslaved. I'll fight. I'll show on the headlines, But then, then they were like, the Herald's an evil guy. He killed an innocent battleship, right? They even bastardized his name in the headlines. And the world government did that. The people he was allying with. And he's sitting there. He's like, that's not what happened, right? That's like if Luffy was just like read any of the headlines that written about him. I destroyed any zombies. No, fuck, I didn't. Buster Call did. What are you talking about, right? And then he's just like, no, they're right. They're right. I was the problem, right? That makes no sense. That absolutely makes no sense. Harald went through the entire problem of the world government last chapter. And to continue on that path as if that didn't happen, that's the delusion, right? That's the desperation. That's why foregoing the friend who told you that they will abandon you and they will betray what you think they are at the drop of a hat, that's why it makes it. Because Rocks told him exactly that. They don't give a damn about that. He told them that the first time they met. They told him that every single other time. And he chose to ignore it. He saw it happen to his people. He chose to ignore it, and then he chose the people who betrayed him, but you bastardized his name, hold him to an ultimatum, destroyed his confidence for the last 20 years, and wants his best friend killed. That's what he's choosing. After last chapter, weird. Before last chapter, less weird. Last chapter was like the Anishi Island situation is changes the whole Herald mindset mentality. Now it's kind of like I'm more curious to see what post God Valley Herald is like, because that's the Herald that gets locked in for the next 24 years until he dies, right?
Oh yeah, he's definitely gonna regret this decision. But like I said, for me, I kind of forgive King Harald. Even with the whole Anishi situation, he could even see it as maybe this is why we should join the world government, so this doesn't happen to our people. They weren't affiliated.
They tried to. They just couldn't afford it. So then villainizing money, villainizing class, right? He couldn't afford it either, right? So that's the thing.
Yeah, I'm just saying, that's why it's like he could see it that way. We need to ally or else we're going to get enslaved eventually too. Which, I mean, like I said, either way, they're going to get enslaved.
So then you can't respect slavers. That's the whole problem. I wouldn't. That's in that regard, Whitebeard's the coolest, right? He was fighting as a Yonko, independent and abandoned slavery, right? That's respectable. Harald choosing to choose the slavers is like Momo being like, yeah, killed my entire nation, my people. It's fine. It's cool. It would have been fine if I just chose to side with the Orochi. It'd been fine, right? No, hell it wouldn't. Yamato would have talked his ass straight, right? That's the problem with the thing is Oda built Herald's. The current dilemma is the Herald that started off the flashback was the one that was more similar to the world government. The one that started off the story, if he didn't meet Ida and he met the world government, then they would have probably allied with that Herald super easily. Oh, this guy's a destroyer. We could just send him to every island and he'd flex his might. But he literally realized it doesn't matter if they're poor, they're weak, whatever, they deserve to live. And that's not the world government mentality. So that choice of choosing the world government after what they're doing to Anishi Island completely negates that transition he had when he set off on this, where he was destroying all these people for just being born not on Elbaph, not as a giant, not as strong, not as wealthy. And that is the world government is destroying people for not being born into the world government, not being able to afford the world government, not being aligned with them. He's choosing that, which completely destroys and completely reverses what the start of his flashback was about. And his whole character arc, his whole character decision, his whole choice to make allies with the people. That's post Anishi Island. It's reverberating. It might as well just stay the same person. That's the reality. He's betraying those allies the same way. The flashback here was we've been raided by giants in the past. These sad poor people, Pepe Kingdom, all the people siding with Cross Guild, and anybody who's looking at the world government as this is the same. You could just substitute it. So that's the reality. It's like you could substitute the giants here, you could substitute the world government, and the reality is Harold's choosing the same choice as he did 40, the same thing that would have made these people. That's the reality. It'd be like siding with Kaido after doing what he did to Wano, right? You wouldn't do that, right? It like almost to the point where we look at Drake and we're like, oh, he's in sword, but then he raised an entire village and killed a bunch of people. And is he co-signing Kaido? Is he on the side of good? Is that what the Navy stands for? It's like, it's a very weird thing, right? But the difference here is Drake isn't one of the strongest people in the world and leader of Elbaph, and Drake is just some dude in the Navy whose mission was to infiltrate Kaido. So it's kind of different than what this is, right? So that's why, yeah, like I cannot, yeah, no, like post last chapter, Anishi Island, his character, bad timeline. That's what it is. He's bald. It's like Oda's literally drawing us the good timeline Herald, the bad timeline Herald, and we're seeing the bad timeline Herald. The very, cannot respect this guy. Rocks. I think Oda's been giving Rocks like super transparent lines. Like it's very like what the readers would react with, and the very straightforward. Like last chapter, this chapter, it's just this is like he has the lines of like I was saying before, like there's a nuance here where Rocks has a goal and he's on the villain side, and there's a certain desire for these things, and he knows how important Harald is, but not a single time did he force Harald to his side. He didn't even entertain Kaido's idea of forcing Harald and forcing Elbaph to his desires. Despite Rocks wanting to be king of the world, he wouldn't want to do that to his own friend. That's how respectful he is. And when it came to last chapter and he saw his friend slipping, he still didn't want to berate him, and he went like, hey, like Ida, you have his trust. That's a very normal, that's a real world thing. You see your friend slipping, you're like, dude, I don't know what to do. You talk to the wife, you talk to the parents. You're like, bro, I don't know how to save him. Like, can you? And they're like, yo, there's no intervention possible, So and it's kind of wild how, even by the end of this, Rocks is just like, the invitation's off, right? Like it's called off, whatever. But he stops here. Like you even see like either the sad face. Like I feel like this is the first time we've seen Rocks like frown like this. Like this is super sad frown, and we see like he's like defeated. Maybe he regrets not using force, but I think there's a certain reality where he's just like, there was no future where I succeed if I forced Harald, and I just lost on that front. So in that regard, I mean, like, hey, he could, if he was as violent as he is, he could have just killed Harald right here. If he didn't call the Whitebeard crew or the Rocks pirates to do anything, right? He didn't sick Whitebeard. Like if they even clashed and Harald and Rocks were here, and he did the Blackbeard method, Harald would be dead. Harald would be dead instantly. Shiki, Whitebeard, Big Mom, Kaido, they would all just show up and then just kill Harald, no different than Whitebeard. If he was that nefarious, if that evil, that greedy, whatever. But he didn't. He just left Harald, said, hey, man, we're going to call for friendship, and walked away. Whereas the flip might not be true, considering the dialogue box that we end with. And it says, the odd little friendship between them came to an end. For the time being, they met no longer. Until the day of that fateful incident, which I think that is the biggest part of this chapter, is that now, not only did Sengoku not mention that there were holy knights and that the Gorosei can transform into giant monsters, and it wasn't just the Roger Pirates versus Rocks with Garp. No. There was a lot more to this shit. And it sounds like Harald was there. Like, if that's the only time they met, because Rocks dies there, so Harald meets them at God Valley. Is that? I think that's what I'm interpreting.
Yeah. So as far as the Harald thing, like bad timeline or no, I still feel pretty bad for Harald, and I respect the decision that he took here to fight his friend. I think it's really well written. I think even the conversation where like Rocks is trying to like tell Harald about all of this, like, hey, open your eyes. Like, I loved it. I think that this chapter, for this segment alone, plus Moria stole the show, but this segment was just great overall. As far as like the certain day, right? They will not meet again until that certain day. It could be God Valley. It could be something else we don't know about. One fun theory that I've been seeing people float around, and I do enjoy it. I don't know how the hell this would work. But people are saying that maybe Rocks was there the day King Harald died.
Thought about that, but then
To
that
our
changes.
knowledge, Rocks should be dead at God Valley, though.
Yeah.
I don't know. Have they ever like explicitly said that Rocks had died there, or that he just got defeated?
Big Mom specifically says when Rocks fell to ruin, and the Japanese Raws, the kanji for fell to ruin, or like the not kanji, but the kanji there can be interpreted as Rocks was destroyed.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, I saw in the past interpretations like the Rocks pirates, but like that one was, I'm pretty sure, specifically about Rocks himself, right?
Yeah.
Sengoku said the Rocks crew broke apart in the English translations. And I think it lines up spot on in the Raws or Japanese. But yeah, as far as dying there, Sengoku says he's no longer alive to speak for himself. But like I've been saying, the whole point of the Fraud Valley video was that Sengoku's telling the story there is not that it's not meaningful. Obviously, it's meaningful to start Rocks' story, but the context that he gave us was not context. He was just giving us like basically a like, here's a nebulous image of what happened, and not really the truth, because he didn't mention Holy Knights. He didn't mention
Shaki.
Gorosei. He didn't mention Shaki. He didn't mention a lot of things in that regard. He didn't mention that Roger and Rocks were probably vying for the same thing. There's so many things that weren't mentioned there. And so Rocks dying may be something that we need to explore. Something I pushed in that video was even that part of him dying may not be the full. I didn't say that Rocks didn't die, but what I was saying was like vanished. When they say God Valley vanished, it might or might not mean the same thing as Lucia. But what I was saying was back then, the conversation was Rocks was erased from history. Like Imu did some magic shit to erase him, like Heroes type of thing. And I was like, no, that's not what happened. It was just that since then, they stopped talking about him. They stopped posting him in the headlines. They never talked about him. And the only reason why you would ever talk about him, because if the Navy wants to hide it and the world government wants to hide it, that's one thing. But it's another thing if the Rocks pirates themselves don't want to talk about it. And that's the huge part that Sengoku said, that they were embarrassed. And to a certain extent, in this flashback, not that they're embarrassed, but we are getting an inkling of why they may not have mentioned the Rocks pirates afterwards. But we do know that after the fact, Kaido and Higurashi, they have a conversation like, yeah, all the Rocks pirates remnants, that's 10 years after the fact, are talking about Rocks. So it's not like they forgot about Rocks. Rocks is still there, but they stopped getting mentioned. So that does open the door that Rocks didn't die, but he was effectively removed in a way that if no one is able to contact him, then isn't he dead? Isn't that, like, for example, isn't that the whole point of Impel Down level 5? That those people are effectively dead, forgotten to history. I'm not saying that's what happened to Rocks, but I am saying that there are versions of that. What if he got stuck in the abyss, for example? What if, like, somehow he got access to the abyss and then he couldn't get out because he didn't have the mark and he's just lost? Like, it could be that. And then when Harald died, maybe Harald got put into the abyss and Rocks is there. Like, we don't necessarily know, right? So I could see that. Like God Valley, I did think about the potential that fateful incident meant when Harald died, but I was like, I don't know if we'd pull that much up and just have Rocks like persist in the story just to see him die, because then we'd have to bring him back for other things. It couldn't just be that. It'd have to be other things, but
it would be interesting if he was still alive, because if he was, then the whole thing about, oh, like, I will be back, like, it could literally be him, because we talked about Blackbeard, right? Blackbeard's gonna be the proxy that goes there. But if Rocks is still, like, alive today, one, that'd be really weird considering how, similar him and Blackbeard look. Imagine two of them in the same panel. But, just overall, he could be like a Madara type character if he was alive. Just old, decrepit, can't fight anymore, and just chilling on the sidelines. And then, when it comes to the world government, right, with King Harald's death, I still feel odd about it, because while I think that the world government did kill Harald, right, if they had the Sun God Nika fruit, that I think it all fits. CP0 or CP whatever had it with Who's Who. I think it fits that, yeah, they're the ones who did it. But Shamrock and Somers, they seem like they liked Harald even after he was dead. So would they kill Harald and then they're like, oh yeah, let's visit his grave? And then even Emu, when they talked about Harald, they're like, yeah, Harald blundered a while back. And it's like, yeah, like, if you killed him, I don't know if I'd call it chalk it up to a blunder. Like, I don't know. Like, the whole thing with Harald feels weird. And that's why I think the idea that Rocks is alive and he was there the day Harald died, I think that could make sense to some extent, because it would put Harald's death on somebody else other than the WG. There could be like a Holy Knight perhaps that has the ability to hold corpses, and maybe they're the ones who like necromancied Rocks D Xebec back, and that's who killed him, and it's a rogue Holy Knight. I remember that was like a crazy crackpot theory I had a while back, like, oh yeah, maybe there's just one bad Holy Knight that killed King Harald and nobody knows. So maybe it could fit like that. Like maybe, the skull guy we saw at God Valley, maybe he's a necromancer and he kept Rocks' body this entire time. Do I believe in that theory? Not exactly, but I think it's just a fun alleyway to make everything kind of fit well. Another way to look at it too is like what you said, maybe King Harald was at God Valley. But if he was there and Rocks died there, then it's like, wait, why didn't King Harald get let into the WG? Like, is it because he didn't do the final blow? He helped. He's helped multiple times, apparently. He's given them giants. They want their power. Like, why not just let him in? So I think that's kind of where I get held up there. It could be another
Garg
incident.
would be the most hated
so
of
weird.
Elbaph. If he took the killing blow from Harald, and then Saturn's doing like some bullshit ass like Davey backfight refereeing, and he's like, you didn't do last blow.
Yeah, you didn't tap him at the
rewards.
End. You got the assist, not the kill. It's like, oh my god.
Yeah,
I just feel like they wouldn't do that to Harald if he really went there to help.
They would. That's the thing. That's the slight of like the game that they play, right? Like everything. That's where it's like it's interesting. I want to know the scope of game, how locked into gaming the Celestial Dragons are or the Holy Knights are. But when it comes to Harald being at God Valley, I feel like Harald being at God Valley amidst everything else, it's like, bro, like, how did nobody die besides Rocks? You know what I mean? Like, how's he's the only fatality between Whitebeard, Shiki, Rocks, Garp, Rayleigh, Scopper, Garling, some Holy Knights, Saturn, and apparently they can injure. I don't know if they learn that after God Valley or they could then. And then now you throw in Harald. Harald obviously lived past there, so it's like, damn, nobody died.
It could be. Rocks. Like, it could be because of Garling. Maybe he pulls a Shanks and he's like, "I've come to end this war. Stop fighting, everybody."
I mean, he was already there.
Yeah, he was already there. Yeah, it wouldn't make any sense. Maybe like Garling's.
Maybe Ida shows up. Maybe Ida shows up and mogs everybody. Yeah, or Loki. That's when Loki
Ida
shows
dies.
Up. Yeah, where it's like there is an interesting thing, like without giving too much details, like it is interesting where technically we should have saw more of God Valley through Kuma's flashback, because we saw when he didn't save anybody yet, and then the flashback goes straight to
Sorbet Kingdom,
and what we get is he saved 500 people, and they don't know what actually happened at God Valley.
Imagine one of the people that he saved was Rocks.
And the other part of that is, like, it's interesting because if you save 500 people, and that's the first time you have that fruit, it makes you wonder. Bonnie saw more. Bonnie saw more of what happened. She saw Kuma's memories, and as a viewer, we skip out that. But there's 500 people Kuma saved, and that's a lot of potential open connections for current characters that, oh, wait, hold on. Maybe this character was from God Valley. They may not have known, or Kuma saved them, and they forgot or something. Like it might be something like that. Maybe we look back and some of the people that treated Kuma well when he was traveling, maybe they were saved by Kuma and they remembered. There's a certain Rayleigh, for example, at Sabaody. You look back at the lines he says to Kuma, and he goes, "You want me to believe you're the real Kuma?" That's what he says to Kuma. And I'm like, huh, what did Rayleigh, why would, because if you didn't know Vegapunk and Kizaru's knowledge of what happened to Kuma, and yeah, you see the robots, you wouldn't really, that's a weird line to say. Sure, you hear things, but Rayleigh at that point is kind of like reserved. He's just on Sabaody. He was actually in prison at that time. So it's like, I wonder what Rayleigh kind of knew about that situation. But then also, you expect me to believe you're the real Kuma. What do you know about the real Kuma, Rayleigh? The only time you maybe knew him would be God Valley. So what did Kuma do that was memorable on the thing? And it's like, yeah, saving 500 people. There was also 100,000 people there. So even if you wanted to say Kuma did a great job, he did. He's a kid. Great. But 500 out of 100,000, it might not. Oda could write it in a way where they never even crossed paths. There's times in the story where we see characters that should have crossed paths, not cross paths, and we find out in the SBS that they're related, or they knew each other, or they have some kind of other connection. And it was like, damn, I wish they met. But when Rayleigh says that, I'm like, I wonder, like maybe Kuma played a bigger role, and it got downplayed in the Kuma flashback because Oda's changed it for us. Like we skipped that part, and it's just like, oh, I don't know what happened afterwards because they left, things, so they don't know the ending of it. But Bonnie should know. Bonnie should 100% know what happened between that Saturn leave off and the 500 people that Kuma saves. And that is an interesting part to leave out because Bonnie does know. Bonnie saw the memories. And it makes you wonder, like, hey, maybe there's some way that Kuma became really proficient with his fruit really quickly. I think in regards to how proficient Kuma was saving 500 people at God Valley in that context, he might be the most proficient devil fruit user on God's green earth. We've seen Luffy eat his devil fruit. We've seen Ace eat his devil fruit. We've seen even like Katakuri, to a certain extent, he's had his fruit for a long ass time, but there's so many characters. It's like, damn, Kuma did pretty good. Just eating that fruit saved a bunch of people.
And
maybe there's something
backing
else
that
there.
up that we'd see more from God Valley about regarding Kuma is when we left off, it was just him and Saturn 1v1ing apparently, right? Like, how does he get out of that? Like, does somebody show up? Does somebody save him? Is it Rocks, Roger, Big Mom, Kaido, Shiki, which Shiki would be hilarious. But yeah, we're definitely going to get more. Oda wanted to hide that. And it would be cool if Rocks was still alive. I just wonder how he'd fit in. Like, what has he been doing this entire time? Just mourning the loss at God Valley, mourning the loss of his crew. I don't know. And then plus, why is he not with Blackbeard? Is he with Blackbeard? There's just so much to talk about if Rocks was revealed to still be here. I think it'd be interesting.
And Oda has been setting us up, and we had an entire Parcast, I would argue, on the chapter that it, like, what does it constitute to be alive, like, or whatever the title was. And that's something that, like, Jupiter?
Marcus Mars.
Mars. Yeah, Mars said, Vegapunk said, the chapter title, Kuma's current state. So it's like, maybe there is a way, because like, where is is Vegapunk still alive? Stella, like, his is a little bit different. His brain is, and then his offshoots are, but like, he's still alive. Well, his devil fruit's still active, so it's like, it's a weird thing to consider alive. Kuma is alive. Whose metrics? He can't even stand like and eat food on his own. It's like he's also a robot. Like, what does it mean to be alive, right? Is Emmett alive, right? Like, I wonder, is he still alive? So maybe there's
Yeah,
a way
and maybe that's
that,
how Blackbeard knows so much about Xebec and his journey and why he named his ship the Saber Xebec, right? It's not just because, I want to fulfill my daddy's wish. No. His dad ingrained everything into Blackbeard, and that's why Blackbeard is who he is today. I think that'd be really interesting. He's just playing like a Madara role, like old man, can't fight anymore, on the verge of death. Blackbeard, do this for me. I'll show you my ways. Like, that'd be interesting, dude. Also, another thing that's fascinating, too, is that when you go back to the day Harald dies, somebody goes into the Elbaph treasury and, of course, takes the devil fruit, right? Easily could be the WG. But the only other character that's mentioned the Elbaph devil fruit is Rocks. He's the only one that's ever talked about the legendary Elbaph devil fruit. So it's like, wait a minute, like maybe it's actually Rocks D Xebec.
But he did mention it to the Rocks pirates.
He did. But so are we... Yeah, no, I see what you say there, but like, I don't know if any other Rocks pirates could actually beat Harald, get the guards on his side, yada yada. Like, I don't know. That's a harder one.
Is there one that can scheme enough? You know what I mean?
Wait a minute.
Like, that's
Barbell.
Yeah. The silhouette might change that one. I don't know if the silhouette might.
Wait a minute, Barbell. He could be the guy.
I think I could. I haven't fished in a while, but I could tell when I caught a catfish. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you smell their asses from across the pond.
Yeah, you might smell them from upstairs. Honestly,
one of those dirty fish people.
Okay, whoa. But let me see this. It's right here.
You blue-skinned monster.
This the Rocks pirates being the people who like Rocks told the Rocks pirates that it seems like there's some kind of scheme where Harald dies to guards or something like that. Loki and Yarul are up there, and then in that room, someone went behind them because the door is behind Harald.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the other thing. The person would have to know the room. So does Rocks even know the room? He said, I think that it's most likely there. By this point, it's not like they've been meeting at the Ida's bar. So is it likely that Harald even knew about that? But like, that's where it's also funny because like, was it Shanks when he showed up? They like scouted everywhere. You know what I mean? Like I forget what it was. Scopper was like, I forget the exact context, but they're like, wait, how do you know about this? And they're like, oh yeah, I'm the one who stole from, like he said something like that. It's like, yeah, we were here first, like some shit like that. So it's like did the Roger pirates but this is 14 years ago, so why would they be doing it? And then the Rocks pirates, there's not that many anymore. You know what I mean? Like 14 years ago, there's still Wang Ji and stuff. We don't know Captain John. Captain John might be like the most likely because he was like the nefarious one, right? He even stole, like he was the one that was given essentially like the Davy Jones lore of like his crew had a mutiny and stabbed him and threw him overboard or whatever, sunk him over. So maybe it's that, I don't know. But we do have to trace. We have to go back and go check our footsteps with that one. There weren't that many people that knew about this, so maybe we figure we can easily tell who this guy is. Maybe there's a few options in order pivots, but I would think that by this point, someone smarter than us probably figured it out.
Yeah,
probably figured out who that guy is,
and it's none other than Barb.
Yeah, that's why Sunbell is
still on the hunt for his brother.
Yeah. The man marked by flames.
So, we now get the last part of the chapter, the red-haired woman in the West Blue. She just gave birth to twins. We got 2 brand new characters. One of them's named Shanks, and then the other one is named Shamrock. So I'm curious, do you think they're still alive today?
I don't know, but they have to be related to Rocks, right? Because Rocks would just mention that it's theorized that he found a lady and he's expecting a child, and this is the same timeline. So it's like, wouldn't it make sense, if this was the people that Rocks was talking about?
Oh, yes. I think the chances that Shanks and Shamrock are Rocks D Xebec's children, it's not zero.
I mean, Shamrock?
Shamrock.
The namesake?
Shankrock, yeah.
Yeah.
This could be the woman that Rocks met.
Rocks and Shanks have the same last syllable. Kusu. That's the thing.
Yes.
Shankusu, Rakusu, Roxu or
and now I think we just have to tackle the topic of whether or not Shanks and Shamrock are still alive today. Because if they are, we don't have too many characters with red hair current day, do we? Like, who would they be? Like, they could be hiding in plain sight. Like, maybe Shanks, Rockstar could be
a lot
Shanks.
Of pink hair.
And then Shamrock could be Kid. Captain
Kid.
We
have
Uta. Uta's another one.
Yeah, she's canon.
Like, I wouldn't be surprised if Shanks and Shamrock changed their names and they're still alive to this very day.
Yeah. Shanks is actually Shanks D Xebec. Oh wait,
Shanks
no. Rocks D
Xebec.
Shanks. Rocks D
might
Shanks.
Might have to put a pin in that one.
Wait, Rocks D Xebec, right? That's his name. So Xebec is Rocks is the family name.
No.
Rocks,
it's Rocks D Garling is his full name.
Rocks D Garling.
Yes.
Wait, no. Wait, hold on.
No. Okay, Xebec is Gold Roger.
Wait, wait.
Okay. Can we stop fucking around, Par? What are we doing here?
You're the one who confused
You started this.
No, Okay,
so back to reality, guys. I'm so sorry. Par had
name?
a little Nas X situation going on.
Nas X?
Yeah, he had like a schizo episode and was naked on the streets and got arrested or something.
I heard about that.
Yeah, kind of crazy. So back to reality. We see an unnamed woman with red hair, and we see Shanks and Shamrock. So does this mean that Garling just came here, pumped and dumped, and left? And also, is this lady nobility? Is she a celestial? Is she just a random woman? Like, how do you feel about her?
So here's the weird part. We go to chapter 1095, right? Where did I just pull it up? Didn't I? Where's 1095? What the hell? I didn't pull it up. All right, someone pull up 1095. Dave, no wait, who's the guy that Joe Rogan has?
Joe Rogan, I don't know.
He has the guy he always looks like, hey, Jamie, pull up the bear video.
Oh yeah, Jamie, pull it on the big screen.
Yeah. When we have Garling go there 2 years ago, and if he's the progenitor of Shanks and Shamrocks, which is like, it has to be, right? Because it's like his face twice on twins, and just the hair is different, but like that makes it weird because then and they're like, oh, because the father's not around. They're not like, oh, that filthy dad left you to die, and X name lady. They didn't. They're like, oh, the dad's not here. We'll cover for you, which is like very interesting because like if she was royal, that wouldn't be said. The tax money always goes to the royals, anyways. They wouldn't need they wouldn't be like, oh, we're gonna go fund you, even though our money goes to your family anyways because you're the royal family, and that wouldn't make sense. That'd be crazy. So like they relatively had a good connotation with not just the mom but also the dad. They're like, oh, we understand. Like it's almost like that, you know what I mean? And it's weird because Garling's not hiding when he goes to God Valley 2 years later and starts like the king goes, you can't do that, and then he just kills him. Wouldn't it make sense to be like, how dare you? You intend to kill my people for a game? It's insanity. But what we saw was Garling said he tried to negotiate with them to make them join the world government. So wouldn't it make sense if they like saw him, knew him, that they're like, Shamrock, or whatever name he was going by, Why are you doing this? Is this why you want it? Like, there was no dialogue there. It was just straight up just like, hey, stop doing this. Who are you? Who do you think you are? And then it just kills them. But it's not just the king who should know him. It's like the denizens. If he's the dad and he spent some time there, and it's like, that's a little weird.
I mean, we don't get too much dialogue from them, so maybe they did say that already. They're like, I keep on saying Shamrock now. Garling, why? And then he's like, I tried to give you an out. I've talked to you guys for a long time now about joining the WG. You didn't want to do it, which I think is a little bit silly. Matt, you know how pissed Harald would be? Like, these guys got offered a spot within the WG for essentially nothing. And Harald is like bending over backwards. Oh man, if Harald was here, he'd be lecturing them like, dude, you guys are so effing stupid. Like, just take it.
Harald
Come on.
might have been here. If Harald is here,
Harald would be killing the citizens too.
Yeah,
like,
if Harald is here, then I would have wished they didn't insta-kill the king. Because then I would love for the king to speak. Because that's Harold's only... He's basically just a Pokemon. He's like, I am king. I am a king. I am the king. And I think back to the Game of Thrones line. It's like, if you have to say you're a king, then you're probably not really that much of a king. But it's just funny because, like, then the king could have explained. Yeah, that is kind of important. I wish... Because that's what Garling says this chapter. They have a unique culture or something like that, like, they didn't want to. And it's like, if they have ample resources, it's not the money part. There was just a specific reason they were opposed to world government, which then could tell us that they might have been like the Joy Boy allies of the past, right? They were just like they might have had like a Minx kind of backlore of like, you know, Wano and Joy Boy and et cetera, et cetera. The guy who's gonna. It might be that they have the whole. We're waiting for the dawn, the new dawn. Like they might have that too, like because Wano and Zoe had that, but so maybe that's what they meant by unique culture, which would make this extra important because then Puma would be like would love it here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I like how consistent Oda's been with the old Western buildings, because in that first panel you can actually see like a saloon in the background, which is fun. Which I do wonder if this will tie into Ryuma.
Yeah, he split the island.
Yeah, I still like that theory a lot. I heard one theory. I don't think it's true, but I think it would be really cool. I thought it was a fun idea. But they said maybe Yoru or something akin to Yoru is here, and that's what split the mountain. And it's kind of like Excalibur, and that's why Garling couldn't bring it back, because it's just stuck in stone. And the reason why I like that is because, you know, earlier on in Elbaph, when Usopp was talking to Yarul, he mentioned Excalibur.
Yeah, it's true.
He said, oh, like, why can't we pull this out? Is it Excalibur or something? And it's like, huh.
Oh.
And then, you know, obviously, I forgot what we went to when he said that. I think we went to Ragnir. Like, oh, you know, Ragnir's going to be like Excalibur. Usopp's going to be the only one that could pull it out. But it's like, huh, what if there is like a different Excalibur?
You know, Loki had the line of like to Hiredin, it's like, so you're gonna keep me hostage, and how are you gonna move the hammer? You can't lift up the hammer. None of you guys can, right? Like that was the line that
so we went to Excalibur for Ragnir, but what if there is a different one and it's in the middle of God Valley, which I think would be fun. I don't think that's the case, but I thought that was a cool theory in general. I think the community's kind of been cooking recently with all these theories.
Yeah.
But for the red-haired woman, so do you think she's of a special lineage, or do you think she's just going to be like a random? Imagine if she's a D-Clan member. That'd be kind of nuts.
I mean, I could see it being like a Rouge connection, like Parcast, like maybe. But, you know, there's the main thing that I pull away from is Oda hid the face. And I hate the line of logic where it's like, it's that it's a Lily thing, you know, like, oh, this is the person. But then it would be weird because it's like, so Garling got first dibs and just told Emu you could have sloppy seconds. Don't worry, you'll be very pleased. Because he knows that.
Yeah, I feel like
Emu.
If I was Emu, I'd be kind of upset. Like, what do you mean you had sex with the woman that I wanted? What the hell?
Yeah. But like hiding the face tells me that the face is probably it's someone we recognize. It's someone that we can connect to. It's someone. It might end up. What if this is Parcast D Rouge? Kuma saved her, and then that ended up being Roger's Ace's thing, and then that would explain why Ace in a good timeline looks like Shanks.
Yeah,
could be that way. It's interesting because they say they've got your red hair. Rouge,
she had like
from
peach hair, reddish.
Yeah,
blonde.
The anime did something funky. They gave her like pink. It was like orange,
dirty blonde. I don't even know what to call her.
No,
hair
the
color.
anime ended up doing blonde later. Like when they did that, I think when she was holding Ace, they gave her blonde hair. But then earlier, when they showed she had like the flower or whatever, and Sengoku was talking about it, they gave her like orange hair.
Yeah, it's like orangish. But also,
but
there's like a filter whenever she's outside.
Yeah.
So I think that's the reason why it's so hazy. I'm looking at pictures of Rouge right now. If you look at Rouge when she's outside, there's like an Instagram, Vivian filter on her.
Yeah, but the
official I could see why.
Coloring, I think, was orange. Like it was like orangish hair, like basically ginger. Like redhead adjacent. It's not like blood red, but you would still call them.
They call it strawberry blonde hair.
Yeah, that's some girl ass shit. Like I go to the salon.
I've heard about that before.
Hey, what color would you want? Oh, I want platinum blonde. It's like, yeah, like no dude like really knows that. And strawberry blonde is another. Like that's this type of shit where like I tell my wife like, oh, like you like my red like this red shirt? And she's like, that's not red, that's strawberry blonde. I'm like, you said strawberry. Strawberries are red. You just added yellow to it, so it's an orange. Can I say orange? She's like, no, it's strawberry blonde. How do you not know your Crayola colors? I'm like, but it makes my wife studied art, so she knows colors, so it's whatever. But yeah. I mean, Rouge adjacent, Rouge connection, Rouge herself. It's not like that she would have to die, but I would be curious to know because if it's related to Garling. I mean, again, that whole situation's weird. Why would you wait 2 years to leave your kids in filth? That is like a faux pas for the Celestial Dragons. And then why not bring her back? Why not steal her? That's weird. And then how did Shanks end up in the chest that Roger took away? Do you not care about them? But you have Shamrocks and you care about them, right? Like, what's that about? Right?
Yeah.
And it's like kind of wonky when you pin what we got from God Valley to where we're at with it. Because it's like, did the lady like him? He pulls off the mask. He's like, I'm actually a genocidal freak. And she goes, shit. I let crazies, like, it's usually don't stick your dick in crazy. But this is the opposite. And then she's like,
I could see Garling being a lover. I can see Garling being a really doting lover. But then again, we bring back the theories that he might have been the one who took Ginny too. So maybe not. I don't know. Like it's so another thing too is like
separating it.
Why didn't if Garling is the person who took Ginny later on, why didn't he take this lady too? Like it's so like I don't know how he feels. Like maybe this is his first love. And then afterwards he spirals because she dies, but he's also the one who wants God Valley to host the rabbit tournament. Like there's just a lot of odd things about Garling's relationship with this girl.
And if you were to say that was the case, then why is this treatment towards the woman so different between Ginny and this one? This one's able to stay where they are. But then the reason why Ginny, like Saturn was saying it, like it doesn't matter that Bonnie has celestial parents. She is an insect. When Shamrock came here, he was just like, this world, like the lower world is filthy. And Garling, when he was when we got it with the execution, we still saw he was just like helping the like lowly whatever, like he put the lower people above us, you know what I mean? And so it's like even Garling has that mentality where it's like it doesn't matter. Like I remember talking about this. It's like, but Par, like if it's their wife, they're gonna treat them really well. And I'm like, did you forget Saba Odi? Like this was the 14th wife or some shit, and he shot the wife and was gonna steal him. Is that good treatment or bad treatment? I don't know. It's like he literally said, toss out wife number 9 and 10 to make room for wife number 9 and just change her number. And it's like that. I don't know if that's good treatment, guys. And then it's like, this though is different. This is very different, to the point where if she's also a slut, because like I think the only option out is like if they're like a homing type family, because in a homing type family,
even if this girl is like homing, where she's a celestial dragon living on the lower realm, I don't think Garling would respect it. Like, dude, his kid and his wife are surrounded by filth.
So it's like odd.
It's really odd.
Part that like is like a cope is that apparently whatever was there was so attractive for Garling that he was negotiating on his own. Because that's the other thing. It wasn't a mission for him to get them to join. He joined there as a pit stop after something, and solo dolo negotiated, hey, join the world government, and then reported it after the fact and said he failed the negotiations. They didn't want to join. So is the God Valley thing like, fuck these guys, they didn't say yes to me, so now because I heard no for the first time in my life, I'm gonna slaughter them all like the pigs they are? Like, that doesn't even make sense either, because the kids, if that was the mentality, you wouldn't leave the kids there, you wouldn't leave the wife there. If the wife was a celestial dragon, would she have the same mentality? Would he leave her in poverty?
And then the thing is, even if she's an insect, right, even if she's like a regular human, I mean, like you said, the celestial dragons, they have a history of just kidnapping the women they want anyways. So, like,
yeah,
no matter how you spin it, this woman is very special, either to Shamrock, or sorry, you said Shamrock once, and now I'm just on that same train with you.
Yeah.
Is she special to Garling in that way? Is she just special lineage? Is she like the one and only exception? Like, it's odd.
Yeah. Very, very odd. And then her reaction to it too. Because if she's a doting lover, right, then it would be, or like if she loved Garling truly, right, meaning like she knew the secrets that he had, right, then was she not aware of the depth of depravity of God Valley? Like the heinous part of it? Did she not know it? And then she was shocked? Or did she willingly, she's like, because that's the other part, we don't know if Shanks was in the treasure chest from the start or later, we don't know. So it's like, did she she's like, yeah, put my kids in the thing, and some random celestial dragon could win them if they kill all of our thing. That's cool with me. That doesn't make sense. And then so is the other alternative is that like, did she get freaked out, didn't know how to save them, she died, and her last thing was to put she tried to put the kids in the treasure chest and try to ship them off to the sea to save them, but then they failed. Like, there's a lot of weird things when it comes to that.
Yeah, it's another one of those things where it's like really hard to speculate, because there's just so many different routes we could go down. I just have no clue, brother. Yeah, but with that being said, any final thoughts for this chapter? Anything you want to leave off on?
It's actually good timing. I do have to go right now, so
yeah. I looked at the time and I was like, okay, we got to head out of here.
Yeah. So, no, I mean, we have 11:59 on the horizon, so we'll get taken care of. We'll take that in stride.
Yeah, the spoilers have already dropped. Next chapter is looking really good.
They dropped? Like, full?
No, I'm kidding. I'm sorry.
Jeez. God damn.
Yeah. Spoiler alert, guys. We see the woman. And she is none other than Norona D. Lily.
That'd be wild.
Yeah, that's just fan fiction.
That's yeah, I was about to say that's some wild stuff.
But yeah. With that being said, guys, let us know who you think Shanks and Shamrock are. Will they become important characters later in the story? Who is Garling? Who is Rocks? Is King Harald still alive today? Let us know all of your theories down below. And peace out, guys. Haha.
Peace.